evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 7th round of Season 3 of Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring, the Beef Jerky Unlimited 120 at Gateway. I am your host, Taylor Burris, and joining me is my partner in crime, Justin Prince, with our producer, Ryan Bauer, using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. And we are here at the Worldwide Technology Raceway here in Madison, Illinois for super late model racing action, Justin, under the lights. It's going to be exciting, exhilarating, a little bit of beating and banging, and we're going to see a lot of great action as we see who makes their way into the playoff.
It's going to make things very challenging as well tonight because this is a car and track combination that will definitely test the abilities of the drivers and their right foots this evening. The reason I say that, we're running super late models here at Worldwide Technology Raceway, which means these drivers will be at the very edge all night long, especially trying to battle with the tire wear and try and battle with the car itself to make it around this very unique racetrack.
It certainly is. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at the Worldwide Technology Raceway, formerly known as Gateway. As we zoom in on Google Earth, this beautiful circuit opened in the 1967, has been home, of course, to NASCAR racing, IndyCar racing, and even a little bit of sports car racing action here at this circuit. Of course, it's a 1.25 mile or 2 kilometer circuit, and it's going to provide a lot of interesting situations because of how different the corner is. Take Darlington, but a little bit more longer corners, as well as the corners are similar in a sense. So we're going to see how these drivers are going to be able to manage it a little bit as they progress through the race tonight. Tires will be an interesting scenario as we progress through tonight's race. Justin, what is one of the things that you have noticed during practice that these drivers are struggling or also learning about this track, especially with the new super late models?
When it comes to learning about this racetrack tonight, one of the things I've noticed so far is drivers in trying to battle off the corner exit because these cars have a tendency to get fairly loose. And if you push too hard on the gas, it can burn up and light up those right rear tires and cause you to snap around on corner exits. Several drivers in practice have had that issue throughout the entire evening. And a couple of the drivers I spoke to emphasized tonight needing to try and hit your braking points near perfectly because you send your car a little bit too deep into a corner. As David Schoenhaus put it just a little while ago, he said, "You'll be along for the ride." It's an interesting drive is the way he described it, in fact. So this is going to be interesting how these drivers fare tonight and try and keep themselves clean. And it's going to be really intriguing, according to all the drivers I spoke to, if we get a long run to see which drivers burn up their stuff early and which drivers can save their equipment.
It certainly is, Justin. As we take a look at the Season 3 standings right now, Anthony Alfredo is at the top of the leaderboard with the most points, but right there you see Shane Van Gisbergen, Adam Cabot, Max Stallneck, and Stefan Wilson all with race wins this season. And in fact, Shane Van Gisbergen actually picking up a couple of wins at Darwin over the weekend in the V8 Supercar Series. So he's got a little bit of momentum pushing his way forward with back-to-back wins in the Monday Night Racing as well as with wins in the V8 Supercar. So he's going to see if he can have what it takes to take home the checkered flag here at Worldwide Technology Racing. But one driver I'm going to keep my eye on tonight, Justin, is the last time that we ran the super late models, Preston Pardus took home the victory. Granted, it was at Michigan, a track where we saw the super late models utilize it as a super speedway style racing with drafting, slingshotting around each other. But still, these cars are going to be interesting to see how well Preston Pardus could come out on top with this victory.
I'm more curious about the drivers such as those we just seen towards the cutoff, like Justin Malillo, like several of the others who need a victory. Gary Sexton, for example, emphasized that because he missed last week, his bad races are now in the midst of a draw, meaning he's going to need top 10 finishes the rest of the regular season to have a shot at the postseason. He mentioned to me that anything less than that of a top 10 could be disastrous. And when it comes to tonight, when it comes to Road America, when it comes to Chicagoland and those combinations, it's all going to be difficult because road course racing can bring some challenges with the next gen machine. Chicagoland can bring some challenges with the Xfinity cars. So it's going to be emphasized the need to be near perfect tonight to carry momentum and make things easier the next 2 rounds if you're one of the drivers near the cutoff.
Certainly is. As we take a look at the schedule right now, only 2 more races before we get to the round of 13. And the next gen cars, which is one of the newly released cars that are added to the iRacing service a few weeks ago, at Road America, in a sense, kind of preparing to what we will see in the real world with the NASCAR Cup Series taking their debut over there. But of course, with the next gen car that we'll be utilizing, it's going to be interesting to see how those drivers are going to be able to master the sequential shifting with these Cup cars in next week. And then Chicagoland with the Xfinity cars, a lot of these drivers are well familiar when it comes to driving at that circuit, especially our Xfinity and Cup Series regulars that are in the series. But with that, as we take a look at the rest of the series right now, we have ourselves a very special guest joining us for our pre-race show. It's our Bryant Shock Technology in-race reporter and co-owner and founder of Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring, the one, the only Ford Martin, as he will be joining us here momentarily. Justin, I gotta say before we have Ford come up here, Ford Martin, who is the creator of this series, has come up with an amazing opportunity to see what we can see each and every season with Monday Night Racing, and it's always grown each time we've come out and raced.
It's been incredible to see the growth of Monday Night Racing. It's become a fan favorite. It's become a driver's favorite because it allows the drivers to have fun, and that's one of the main things emphasized, even by drivers on the cut line, has been it's a great chance to have fun against friends, against fellow media members, against NASCAR veterans and NASCAR superstars and racing superstars in general. So it all allows them the opportunity to enjoy themselves on a Monday after a long weekend of racing. It's been incredible to see the growth of Monday Night Racing throughout this entire time, throughout the past few months or so.
It certainly is. And think about this. Monday Night Racing, while we're waiting for Ford to come up here and get ourselves settled, Monday Night Racing has had champions in both the NASCAR Cup Series, the V8 Supercars, NHRA, even the AMA Supercross Series. We are ready to go with this. He has been able to bring them together. And speaking of that, here he is, our Bryant Shock Technologies in-race reporter and co-founder and creator of Monday Night Racing, Mr. Ford Martin. Ford, welcome to the Monday Night Racing pre-race show. How are you tonight?
Good, guys. How you doing?
We are doing wonderful. As we look into this race here tonight, Ford, for you, as you get ready to race these super late models at Worldwide Technology Raceway, what do you suppose the difference is with this super late model compared to the last time we raced them at Michigan a season ago?
Well, we definitely didn't downshift last time we were at Michigan, so that's probably the biggest difference. But there's a lot of similarities in that car. Obviously, they updated it a little bit too. So, but overall, I think tonight you're going to have to almost run it a little bit like a road course, because you look at how this race goes. Like when you go into turns 1 and 2. You see it as the car, you have to downshift into 1 and 2 and then get a good run off of 2, because it matters, because it's a long straightaway all the way down the front and back straightaway. So, and then 3, not usually as much in the beginning of the run, but as the tires start to wear and start to lose a little grip, you might have to downshift a couple times. So definitely a lot of differences between Michigan and here, but looking forward to an exciting night.
Tonight, you also come into this evening with a lot of pressure because you're just 2 points above the rest of the pack in terms of the playoff cutoff. What type of pressure is that to try and perform, knowing that any mistake could allow anyone to charge back up in the standings?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a lot of pressure for sure. We do have 1 drop on the season, and I only got tonight and next week as the only drops. Not sure who's trying to push me on the racetrack right here, but it's a little bit of pressure for sure. But if we just come out of here, just take care of our stuff, have a solid night, I think we'll be okay. So, like I said, we do have a drop of the bank, and that was our worst. We got like 2 points at Daytona to start the year. So, if we just take care of our stuff here, I think we'll be okay.
As we push closer forward to the end of the regular season and getting ready for the playoffs, so far, how would you rate this season 3 of Monday Night Racing compared to season 2, as well as the first season of Monday Night Racing?
Obviously, you look at a lot of guys that a lot of the big-time NASCAR drivers, they're not able to. A lot of them not able to join. Like we had Kyle a lot in season 2, and not as much this season because obviously he has his racing going on in real life, and a lot of these guys have their racing going on in real life, and they're not able to join. So I expect that to change a little bit in season 4 when you have a lot of these more guys coming in. But this also brings the opportunity for a lot of these younger guys that are maybe not get the spotlight, don't have to worry about the grind of maybe traveling as much or being at the racetrack, get some opportunity to shine and be here as well. So the competition has definitely stepped up big time. I mean, it was almost nearly a walk in the park last season to make the playoffs. And now it's crunch time this season. So it's the competition has definitely stepped up, but it has race after race, and I think this is a driver's racetrack, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to it.
It certainly is. Well, before we let you go forward and get ready for tonight's qualifying and then the race, anyone you'd like to give a thank you or shout out to?
No, I just got to thank everybody for all our partners here from Monday Night Racing, BST Shocks, Big Green Egg, Tufco Flooring, everybody that helps us put on a show, Rowdy Energy, obviously you guys at Podium Esports, Beef Jerky Unlimited. Obviously Ron Capps has played a huge part in helping grow our league as well. So just thank everybody here, and also Jack Daniels here for the old 7 car. So we'll see what our girl's made of, and we'll try to go get them tonight.
Well, thank you once again. That is our Bryant Shock Technology in-race reporter and co-founder and co-creator of Monday Night Racing, Ford Martin. And as we come to this here close, Justin, it's exciting, a lot to come up with, but with that, we are now going to turn it over to the voice of Podium Esports, as well as your play-by-play announcer for tonight, James Pike, along with Kenneth Bueno, as they will bring you all the storylines for tonight's race, along with Justin Prince, who will be down on pit road. So, gentlemen, as we look forward to a little bit of short track racing here tonight, what could we expect? And with that, we are going to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, James Pike and Kenneth Bueno will bring you all the action for Season 3 of Monday Night Racing here at the Worldwide Technology Raceway.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Maconi Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Maconi Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Maconi Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MaconiSetupShop.com and learn why Maconi Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
We are an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. We don't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach to flooring, and neither should you. When you choose Tufco, we consult with you about your needs, industry requirements, and factor in numerous variables. After assessing your facility, we engineer your floor and drains, then install everything ourselves. That's the Tufco way.
Visit our website at tufcoflooring.com.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 7th round of Season 3 of Monday Night Racing, the Beef Jerky Unlimited 120 at iRacing's virtual worldwide technology raceway and gateway in Madison, Illinois. James Plank, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Kenneth Bueno and Justin Prince down on pit road. Our producer, as always, Ryan Bauer, with cameras provided to us this evening by W. Beard and Kenneth. A big track, but more importantly, first time we've seen the new and updated Super Late model in Monday Night Racing. For those who don't know, this car got a massive overhaul as part of the March update a few months ago, and it is a very, very quick machine, a fast machine, but plenty of fun to drive, especially from those who have been around the short track scene. I talked to Landon Huffman about this, and Landon, big time fan of these things. They go fast, but they can be a bit to handle as well.
Yeah, they are certainly a challenge. And even before this new updated Super Late model, James, it's been a tough car to drive. And I think one of the benefits we have of sim racing, we can get behind the wheel of these cars ourselves. It is definitely a challenge nonetheless, but it's also a welcome back to asphalt oval racing. I can remember the last time we went asphalt oval racing with an asphalt oval car. It was the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We went there with the Indy cars for the Indiana 500K. So it's a welcome back indeed for the ovals. And this one, James, is going to be very pivotal in the championship. And what better way to do it with the Super Late models tonight?
Beginning to work our way towards the end of the regular season in Season 3 as well. Just a handful of races to go. 3, in fact, before we determine the cutoff and start working our way towards the Season 3 playoffs. So plenty to keep our eye on that front. But this Super Late model, especially for those who don't know what makes it different from a regular late model stock, like what you would see, especially in the Carolinas with the Solid Rock Carriers cars tour and a lot of the short tracks around there. These Super Late models are a straight rail chassis. Basically have 2 long supports that go down the center of the car with a little bit of bracing on the outsides, as opposed to your regular late models that have a perimeter chassis, much like what you see in the stock cars in the NASCAR Cup Series, the NASCAR Xfinity Series, the Truck Series. Their chassis were in fact derived from the perimeter chassis that we saw in the late model stocks back, especially in the 60s and the 70s. So they certainly do share a good bit of lineage. But the Super Late model also has a larger rear spoiler and, more importantly, more power, which means a greater power to weight ratio, which means it can be easy to spin yourself out, especially on tracks like this one that don't have a lot of banking to support your car on corner exit.
Yeah, James, and we're going to be talking about that over the course of tonight. The way the challenge is between these cars have so much power, and you mentioned it there, the fact that you can easily spin this car around. We've seen many drivers already do it in practice, so you reckon how many drivers are going to have to handle that over the course of tonight's race. And Gateway itself, a very technical track indeed, so I figure we're going to see a lot of fun, and these drivers will have to sweat a little bit more over 120 laps.
Let's take a look at this fantastic racetrack here. Looking at the racing atlas, just 2 laps to race around Worldwide Technology Raceway Gateway. 120 laps, 150 miles, 241.44 kilometers. 1 quick repair available to these drivers. 3 green, white checkered sims, 3 sets of tires in the pits, and this is a fixed custom setup race courtesy of our friends at Maconi Setup Shop. So it's a little bit of what you'll see with regards to the track. And let's actually take a look a little bit closer at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. You see where we are in the world, just across the river from St. Louis and just across the river from the Gateway Arch. So technically we are in Madison, Illinois. The property here opened up in 1967, but this oval opened in 1995. 11 degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2, 9 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4. Will Power set the fastest lap pair of the Indy cars back in 2017 when they made their return to Worldwide Technology Raceway Gateway. But biggest difference, I think, with these cars, Kenneth, you look at most national level stock cars that come here, whether or not it's the trucks, whether or not it's the Xfinity Series, you're going to shift in the middle of the corner. It's an oddity here. There aren't too many other places where you shift on an oval with the current generation of cars. Pocono might be the other one that jumps out at you. But with these super late models, their gearing is so low by nature that everybody's going to be in 4th gear pretty much the whole way around. You're going to shift on restarts, but once you get to 4th gear, that's where you're going to sit. That's where you're going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's going to make things a little bit easier. I said that, of course, they're going to have to sweat, but that's something that they can really be relieved. The fact that they won't really have to deal with all of that. We saw it with the NASCAR Camping World trucks, and if you mention another place, I think you can think of New Hampshire, very low banked oval that you have to really go for that gear shifter each and every time because the revs are so low. But that'll be something the drivers won't deal with tonight. But what they will be dealing with is the low banking. That's going to be something to go with. And the opposite ends of the racetrack, you're going to have more banking, but a slower 1 and 2 versus a lower banking, but faster 3 and 4. So in any case, they won't have to deal with the shifting, but they're going to have to deal with the track, and racing the track is probably one of the toughest things to do as a race car driver.
This being a flat track like a Pocono in a sense, like New Hampshire in a sense, it requires a little bit more skill to roll into the throttle on corner exit, and I would not be surprised if we see a lot of drivers struggle to put power back to pavement and get themselves in trouble. Usually when we come to Worldwide Technology Raceway Gateway, we end up with a few incidents across the board. I wonder if tonight will be any exception. Let's take a look at your Beef Jerky Unlimited Polo Award winner for tonight. That's Will Rogers, the Flying Hawaiian out of Maui, Hawaii, who began his Race to NHEP-C campaign at Nashville Superspeedway in the NASCAR Xfinity Series over the weekend for Sam Hunt Racing, driving that number 26. He takes his number 65 medal to the pole with a 33.746 alongside fellow Xfinity Series driver Ryan Vargas. NASCAR's DJ Cummings and ERL Season 3 champion Adam Cabot make up the second row, while Nick Sanchez joins Brad Perez in row 3.
Back to row 4, you will find the 29 of James Bickford, and to the outside of him, the 47 of Andros Chrome, before you find JD Motorsports' Gabe Wood in row number 5, and Washington, D.C.'s own Raja Caruth through the top 10, and behind them you'll find Twitch streamer David Showhouse in the 20 machine, and Joshua Slate on his outside in P12.
Got the chance to catch up with Josh at Dominion Raceway over the weekend. Car Store was in town. Good to see him. Good to see him qualify well. Starting just ahead of TJ Majors and Ford Martin, our Bryant Shock Technologies in-race reporter this evening. Anthony Alfredo and Matt Stolneck complete spots 15 and 16 on the grid. Robbie Lyons and Max Kennedy started 17th and 18th.
53 of Justin Malillo of Traction GG will start on the inside of row 10 with Mark Rabillas to his outside. Mike Clay and Steve Alfont in the 11 will be on the outside of row 11 before you find Brett Baldick and Dylan Welch into row number 12 tonight.
Gary Sexton, Seth Eggert, two drivers with a little bit more of an esports bent in MNR. In row 13, Shane Van Gisbergen, man of the hour in MNR. The most wins in Season 3 to this point. He'll start to the inside of row 14 and 27th alongside Garrett Smidley. Stephen Ellis and Garrett Miller complete the top 30.
And then behind them, you'll find the final two drivers who have to work their way from the rear. The 28 of Ron Capps and the 64 of Drew Walker James.
It's your starting grid for tonight's Beef Jerky Unlimited 120. Currently, the in-sim time is the default day for iRacing, May 15, 2021, around 8:15 p.m. local time in sim. Partly cloudy skies with an air temp of 66 degrees Fahrenheit, a track temp of 69 degrees Fahrenheit, and winds headed to the north at 2 miles an hour. No humidity. Bit of a surprise here being as close to the mighty Mississippi as we are. It's only just a handful of miles away from the front stretch grids, and you head that way and it takes you towards the west, towards the river, towards the arch, towards St. Louis. But we are ready to go at the gateway to the west as Will Rogers and Ryan Vargas begin our, I guess, what, 3/4 of a base lap before we go green flag racing and Monday night racing once again.
Yeah, this is going to be very fun, and this is going to be very crucial, James, the entrance to turn 1. You're going to really be hard on the brakes normally, but you're going to have to be a little more careful, especially with these cars on the old tires. And I reckon for the top two, they want to set the rest of the field right and be the ones leading by example once we head on this initial start. So I guess two drivers that we see in the Xfinity Series leading the field. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Xfinity Series power, first and second on the grid. Two drivers who were busy in Nashville over the weekend and will try and carry their speed and their momentum into a potential Monday night racing victory under the Gateway Arch just outside of St. Louis. Waiting for the virtual green flag as the pace car pulls off the pit road. We're glad you're with us on Podium Esports as Barney the flagman unfurls the green, and we are underway and racing in St. Louis. And trouble before we even get going. You saw it on the screens. Gary Sexton and Raja Caruth sideways over in turn 2 to bring in our first yellow flag of the evening. DJ Cummings slow on the apron 2, but actually it was Cummings. I take that back. Cummings and not Sexton who got sideways. But we'll look at the replay here, see what happened. Looks like there may have been a little bit of help from the 30 of Brad Perez in the middle of 2, Kenneth.
We saw him going sideways, and actually, yeah, he did get help, but he checked up as he was trying to make the arc going into turn 2, just barely gets hit, and then trying to rejoin the racetrack, hit by the 57 and the 64 as well. And I believe we also saw Raja Caruth, a Washington, D.C. native, going for a spin in the inside grass as he run on board with the 57 of Seth Eggert. He was the one that got into the 10 of Cummings right there as Cummings was trying to merge back on the racetrack.
Interesting that I don't think there was any damage for Cummings, but Eggert's got a significant amount of damage to the right front of his car. So you'll see the beat up 57 machine. And then I want to get a better look at what happened to Raja Caruth. Didn't quite see it the first time around, but Raja was sideways and already around before they got to 2. Looks like he might have just clipped the grass trying to avoid DJ Cummings and spun himself out. So just a quick little self spin for the driver of the number 6 machine, the Sunoco Rev Racing inspired car. Looks a lot like the late model we've seen Raja drive at many a short track across the Southeast, but he'll get going and we will get everybody lined up under the yellow flag as we work lap 3 of 120.
And I stated it a little bit earlier, James, the restart's going to be very pivotal because you're going to have the field packed in. You're going to have these cars ready to go, all the power ready to unleash right at the tip of your right foot in the cockpit. And for many, I guess, right there, a little bit of contact sends the 10 around and just about stacks the field up. But hopefully we end up seeing a cleaner restart once we get the next time around and Rogers can lead them down again.
We'll head to Justin Prince for the first time this evening down on pit road. Justin, understand there's a not so happy driver of the number 10 machine.
Yeah, he was lighting up the radio the second the incident happened. He was definitely not happy, and having that happen on lap 1, turns 1 and 2 of this race. The temper's definitely overflowing after what was a very loose and very fun flow just moments before they took the green flag on that same said radio. But keep in mind with Seth Eggert as well, he's already had to come down to the pit lane and had to get some damage repairs done on his number 57 machine. That is a special paint scheme for tonight as well, with the Save the Speedway colors on that machine tonight, with a sponsor deal that came together between seasons 2 and 3 with Carter Finch. He said his only chances to make the playoffs, in his opinion, are tonight and the finale due to media commitments with his work. He said, though, I'm just in it to have fun and be casually competitive if possible.
Get a good look there at that red, white, and blue Save the Speedway machine. Of course, Save the Speedway, the long-standing efforts to revive North Wilkesboro Speedway in Northwest North Carolina, a place very near and dear to my heart. Grew up not too far away in Winston-Salem and saw North Wilkesboro going up Highway 421 many a time as a child. So certainly have one fan of those efforts and definitely wouldn't mind seeing North Wilkesboro get back to action at some time in the future. But more interestingly, here towards the front of the field, Will Rogers is at least down on the apex pit lane entry, maybe trying to save fuel a little bit or something there, Pueda?
I'm not sure, but in most league races, I see a lot of drivers do that just to do it, just because they want to have fun. I've seen many at the Charlotte Roval or the Charlotte Oval, they use kind of the Roval part just to do it under pace laps. I guess Rogers trying to cure some of the boredom behind the pace car so we can go back under green flag conditions. But that's something we'll be talking about over the course of tonight. That entrance to pit road, most ovals, you're going to see the entrance to pit road happen right before the wall of pit entry. But here at Gateway, you have to use that pit access road to go into pit road because there's only a small piece of asphalt at the end coming off of turn 4. So when many make pit road stops tonight, James, we're going to see drivers utilize that access road, try to go single file themselves out when they get to pit road speed limit.
And likewise, you're going to see drivers using the access road coming out of pit lane. That's why you see the blue cone signifying the end of pit road and the pit road exit line towards the inside there, right off the access lane. They're not going to rejoin the main racing surface until they hit the back straightaway. So certainly something to keep in mind as these drivers work their way around Worldwide Technology Raceway and Gateway. Is maybe we're starting to see a few tempers bubble. Wouldn't be the first time we've seen that happen at a place like Gateway. But for now, all eyes back on Will Rogers and Ryan Vargas as we go back to green flag racing on lap 6 of 120 in this Beef Jerky Unlimited 120 at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. Green flag is back out once again. Rogers gets a good jump. He'll clear Vargas, who immediately gets to the bottom as they fan out to turn 1 for the first time.
Hopefully they'll try to keep things a little bit cleaner. As you see Rogers leading them through 1 and 2. Couple of drivers in the pack. I see Gabe Wood trying to make a move to the outside, and many about 2, almost 3 wide. Some near the back, about 3 wide as they head back to turn 3. Seems as though we've had a clean first half of the racetrack on this restart, James.
Everybody trying to find their place in line, figure out where their cars will settle in. Top 6 or 7 already, single file, save for Anders Krohn and the 96 machine of Nick Sanchez racing for the 5th and 6th positions. Krohn will try and dive ahead of Sanchez, but the 96 is still just there to the inside of the 47.
And right now, you're going to try to peek this nose in, James, and it's very tough to do it, but what we're going to see is drivers just setting up on either part of the course. Just use turns 1 and 2, maybe to kind of hard break in, or use 3 and 4 to build up some momentum. You see that with the 96 of Sanchez. He dug his nose in, utilizing the brakes, and you can see the rusties on the quarter panel of the 47 of Anders Krohn as he's under challenge for position. Ryan Vargas also challenged for position with Adam Cabot. Here comes Brad Perez, almost about 3 wide to turn 1.
Oh, Ryan Vargas gets the fence in 1 and 2. He drove it in too high and caught the marbles, and that will allow Cabot to get to his inside, Perez to go underneath him. Here comes Anders Krohn to the inside, and maybe even Nick Sanchez before they get to turn 3.
That was tough there. We might have to at least diagnose some of that damage on the 6 of Ryan Vargas. So things are getting very tight as you run on board with the car just behind them. And you see Brad Perez is his rearview mirror. He's got a lot to see. Again, Vargas strikes the outside wall. This time staying to the right. He's going to slow significantly. And the rest of the field going to go by. Not the type of 9 laps you want to see out of the driver. The 6 and right in front. Driver gets turned.
Robbie Lyons goes around in contact a little bit further back, I believe, from Mike Clay, and trouble for the second time tonight. Mark Rabillas was also in there. We'll get an immediate look at that. This all stem from Vargas just trying to stay out of the way. He'd already smacked the fence out of turn 4 and rode it all the way down the front straightaway, and it looks like there were drivers just trying to take advantage of the situation, and they turned down, trying to get underneath it, and just a weird situation. I do not believe that Robbie Lyons recognized that he had company so close in the form of Max Kennan.
And you saw it right there, trying to arc the corner. You see Lyons make that entrance. They get by Ryan Vargas. Here run on board with the 88 of Mike Clay, who was near the rear of the field, right about here, just trying to slow down. Slams right into Robbie Lyons. You see the 99 machine of Mark Rabillas. He also about got caught up in as you ride on board with his Bitcoin super late model heading into turn 1. Just that slight bit of contact, James, and it about takes out 3 cars as Rabillas had to smack the outside fence and hit the brakes trying to get by, but he easily gets damage a part of this one as well.
Wild stuff, and the radio, Justin Prince, I think you need to feed some of the stuff that we've been hearing over our ears, because it's gotten very, very heated very quickly in this race.
To describe Ryan Vargas's frustration with the wall hit out of turn 4, the exact quote, "Y'all can't give room on lap 8. He has not been happy at all over the radio with how things have played out so far tonight for him, and has already had to come down to the pit lane, it looks like, for those repairs. Max Kennan as well had also quickly apologized for his situation. So tempers at one end are flaring, and apologies at the other end are coming up for some of the incidents."
Yeah, could get a little bit testy, but then again, this is what we tend to see here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. A lot of incidents, especially on corner entry 1 and 4. Those 2 spots in particular tend to be the ones where we end up with some sort of trouble, Kenneth Bueno, and no shocker that we enter the race and it's over in one that we see our most recent incident.
That's one of the slowest parts of the racetrack. You're just trying to arc yourself. You're trying to be hard on the brakes, and in many cases, I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't the other way around, that Lyons was just trying to dive in, then would slide up the track, and we usually see contact arise from there. It was just the other way around, where Kennan was trying to arc the corner, then gets into Lyons, and then turns him around. So hopefully more incidents do not happen with like that in the future, but I think for Lyons, he uses the fast spare. Hopefully he'll be getting back going soon.
As the lights go out on the pace car, we remind you that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by Tufco Flooring, an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. Tufco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. They listen to your needs and requirements and develop custom solutions for every client. And for more information, you can visit their website at www.tufcoflooring.com. Will Rogers, Adam Cabot, your new front row with the trouble that has befallen Ryan Vargas. Just a note here, looking and keeping our eyes peeled. Robbie Lyons has already used his fast repair. He's the only one that's done so. Looks like everybody else is trying to save their fast repairs. And you see a very, very antsy Brad Perez there in P3. He's been solid within the top 5 for the last few laps, just getting set to get going. The driver out of Hollywood, Florida, the pit crew member for Rackley Warren Martin's Motorsports, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series and Xfinity Series, also a co-host of Racing Spaces on Twitter. So he's got his hands in a few different cookie jars. We'll see if he can get a good restart, maybe put in a good fight for the race lead, as Will Rogers will lead them back for our 3rd restart of the evening.
They'll stack them up. The 65 of Rogers will get going. A couple of drivers severely stacked up near the rear. I saw Justin Malillo had to check up, and you see him right there. His Mustang directly to the outside wall to let everybody by. A very stacked restart for most of the midfield. But again, for Rogers, like we saw, to start this race, he's leading the field all clean to turn 3.
Trouble for Justin Malillo on that restart. Meanwhile, Rogers clear by about 2 car lengths over Adam Cabot, Nick Sanchez, Brad Perez, Jordan Orr for the 3rd spot coming out of turn 4.
And again, they remain side by side. We've seen a lot out of Brad Perez ever since his entrance into Monday Night Racing. He has been very, very strong. He's on with a very strong car in practice, and now looking for that 3rd spot underneath, or at least trying to get under the 96 of Nick Sanchez, trying to catch Adam Cabot along the way. About slides up the track. I think they'll say single file as many go side by side. You see David Schillhouse, Anthony Alfredo also working for position.
Raja Caruth heads down to pit lane early, presumably to fix some damage as they continue to fight for 3rd. Here's a good look at Anthony Alfredo and David Schildhouse. This is for 8th and 9th on the racetrack as we go on board with the driver of the number 20 machine. Schildhouse in his Focus by Advanced GG Chevy Camaro, trying to get the move done on the 38 car.
And also for Schildhouse, just trying to make the move up to the playoffs. He sits 7th in the points coming out of Knoxville. What was a very, very solid night for the driver of the 20. Came home with a top 5 on the dirt. And ever since his performance at Lime Rock, James, he's gotten from pretty much the cusp of playoff elimination from the regular season to a heavy contender in the playoffs when we come in about 2 weeks' time. So he's done a good job. But right now, you see the top 2 seemingly running away from the field. Adam Cabot trying to chase down Rogers again.
Meanwhile, look at these 2 fighting. Anders Krone, Anthony Alfredo. I saw Krone go at the racetrack in 3 and 4 that last time by. So Krone will try and drive off the front end of the 38, go chase down James Bickford, who's got P5. As you see just down at the bottom of your screen, Adam Cabot has begun to reel in Will Rogers for the race lead.
I remember, like I mentioned at the top of the show, James, the last time we visited Asphalt Oval with Asphalt Oval cars, it was Indianapolis it was the Indy cars at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the last winner at the Asphalt Oval we raced at was that 17 of Adam Cabot. So he's shown a lot of strength, not only in practice, but right now in the race. As you watch Ryan Vargas in the 6 machine, he's in 16th currently, just trying to regain all that he lost in that opening wreck.
And did not use the fast repair either. You can see him, though, that rear end is stepping out. He's using every bit of the throttle that he can to try and help the rear end of this car rotate and get out of these corners a little bit faster to the inside of the 41 of Matt Stolnagh. He goes as we go back on board with Will Rogers, who has a rear view mirror full of the 17 of Adam Cabot.
And there's one driver on the outside wall, James, to cause the caution. That's Raja Caruth in the 6. And you saw the leader swerve down to the inside and get away from him. He was stopped sideways at the start-finish line. Take a look at the replay, and you see the field just behind Caruth. You remember he made that pit stop that you noted a while back. And you see him coming out of turn 4. I'm not sure whether he had a moment all on his own. And actually, he did. Slid up into the outside barrier, went around, and that's where he stayed on the front stretch.
Now, Roush is just trying to make up time after Hughes' penalty. He got to stop and go. That's why he was down pit road a few laps ago, and just too aggressive on the throttle on corner exit. That's why the 6 went around. So it's been a very rough start to the evening for Raja Caruth. We will take a quick break and be back on the other side with more action from the Beef Jerky Unlimited 120. You're watching coverage of Monday Night Racing from Worldwide Technology Raceway and Gateway on Podium Esports.
There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated, where grilling traditions and new techniques are perfected. Here in Big Green Egg Country, you can grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Simple delight, easy to use, comes with a free lifetime warranty. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Shop online for home delivery at biggreenegg.com. That's biggreenegg.com.
Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the Beef Jerky Unlimited 120 here Monday Night Racing, one of the super late models of iRacing at the virtual Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway in Madison, Illinois. Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Maconi Setup Shop, the home for iRacing setups and the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports. From asphalt to dirt, Maconi Setup Shop's team of professional setup builders has it all. It's simple. You can't beat the best, so don't settle for the rest. For more information, visit www.maconisetupshop.com and grab all the setups you need today. Will Rogers has been, has not been unseated at the front of this field, but that is not to say he has not had a challenge or two as these drivers get lined up for the restart, which will come on lap 21 of 120. Adam Cabot was reeling in the 65 machine over the course of that most recent green flag run. So, Kenneth Bueno, we get a few more green flag laps in. You think the 17 might have something for the 65?
He definitely could. If we get a long enough run, we've seen the 17 half speed on the short run before the yellows come out. I reckon if we start to wear in the tires, we start to get in a lot of laps, you got to watch for that 17 Camaro because he's going to be charging, and he's already put the pressure to Will Rogers. Let's see what he can do on this next restart.
Getting set to go. Green flag racing one more time. Pace car down to pit road. Green flag almost out in the hands of Barney Abner. Stunt Grundle. We take off and go. Green flag racing once again, and it was a good restart for Rogers, who will clear Cabot and company by maybe 3, almost 4 car lengths entering one.
Well, it's not going to be easy now for the 17 of Adam Cabot because it was a good restart for the 96 of Nick Sanchez as well. So he tries to look under while Brad Perez also tries to put the pressure. You see behind them Gabe Wood in a dead heat battle with the 29 of James Bickford. You see pretty much Will Rogers blocking all the way down the racetrack as they head back to turn 3. Many of them fanning out once again.
Rogers there, good battle here with Anders Crone, James Bickford and company all towards the back, having a lot of fun as we get set to go crazy with it. Will Rogers still your leader. There goes Brad Perez to the inside of Nick Sanchez, and Crone looks like he's gotten the best of Bickford, Wood and company.
Just trying to hold them off as many just aim to get single file. I think that's one of the goals here, James. When you look at a run like this, you don't really want to be side by side here at Gateway. You really want to be just single file. You want to stay stable. You want to get into that rhythm. And for right now, that's what many are trying to do. And take a look at the driver underneath Anthony Alfredo for P7 right now on the racetrack. That's your former race winner from last week, James. The 97 is Shane Van Gisbergen on the move.
Van Gisbergen, who had a successful weekend in the Australian Supercars at Hidden Valley Raceway just outside of Darwin, the capital of the Northern Territory, as Anders Crone goes around, trouble at 1 and 2. He manages to just sneak through it, does Van Gisbergen, but a lot of cars sideways, and the yellow flag is out once again at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway.
Oh, that was I think arguably the largest wreck of tonight's race, James, and right at the front of the field it was, and you'll take a look at it as they head back to turn 1. Nothing new for Will Rogers. You see him there just trying to control the field, but it all happens right about here going into turn 1. That stack up there with the 47 and the 29 of James Bickford. You see Gabe Wood get into it. Shane Van Gisbergen tries to escape through the middle, but again, another tough incident, sending some multiple drivers with more damage as he ride on board with the 50.
Not much that you can do there. Van Gisbergen just trying to clear his way through it, but he did pick up some damage. Anders Krohn got the worst of it initially. He was the one who initially got turned. And then Gabe Wood here, you see on your screens, he picked up some damage, got turned by Van Gisbergen as they all tried to check up. Anthony Alfredo, I think, picked up some damage to his machine or barely snuck through it. Ford Martin turned David Schildhaus around trying to check up. So just a lot of stack-up effects there in the middle of 1 and 2 once the 47 went around. And Justin Prince, don't think Anders Krohn is too happy if what we've just heard is any indication.
Yes, essentially saying thank you. His pile drove through me, to simply sum it up what was said on the radio. Some of the drivers, as a result, already having to come down for damage repair. Others checking over the radio. How bad is my damage? And this was a question mark coming in before this caution flag period too. Do we come down to pit for tires was a question Anthony Alfredo had put amongst himself for tonight's race. And now we see several drivers as a result coming down for stops.
Lots of folks coming in to get their tires fixed up, get their cars fixed up. If anybody's got any incidental damage that they think they can repair that wouldn't involve a fast repair, continue to do that. David Schildhaus getting 4 new Hoosier tires underneath his super late model, his Chevy Camaro, get going a little bit further back in the pack, but still has a clean race car for the most part. Doesn't look like there's much damage on the 20 machine.
I think that's a good sign there, James, for at least many. We saw that with Ryan Vargas, that he didn't really have to pull the trigger on the fast repair, so he could have just easily repaired the damage and have to keep going, save it for later. I think that's the key that we're going to see here tonight.
Let's get a chance to talk to our Bryant Shock Technologies in-race reporter for the first time this evening, administrator of M&R, Nashville, Tennessee's Ford Martin. Ford, you had a pretty good seat of what happened on that most recent yellow flag. Is there anything anybody can do in a situation like that when you've got about 4 or 5 cars going around in the center of the corner?
No, just a lot of stuff happened in front. We're trying to, a couple of these guys are getting a little chippy here on the racetrack and on the radio here. So, really nowhere to go. It's just hard, especially in that part where you're having a downshift in the center 1 and 2, and you gotta put on the brakes. But overall, pretty cool view though. Not too much damage though.
Are you surprised at how chippy this race has gotten early on? Lots of yellows, lots of tempers beginning to flare at an early stage. Did you expect something like that? This being almost an overgrown short track in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it sounds like everyone's having a bad Monday considering how chippy it is on the radio. So, but we'll see what happens here. About to go green, and hopefully, hopefully everyone figures this out and we have a good restart here.
We'll let you get back to it, Ford. Thanks for the time. We'll chat with you a little bit later on in tonight's race as they indeed get set to go back to green flag racing. This time, we'll get the green on lap 27 of 120 as we work our way through the evening here on this summer solstice day. It's the summer's longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, and still see a little bit of light here at Gateway, but we're beginning to head into the shadows of darkness as the green flag comes out once again.
I like the term shadow of darkness there, but you see the light shining on Will Rogers as he heads for the start-finish line, taking the field back to the restart on lap 27. Many of them trying to go for side-by-side action. You see Nick Sanchez with a big of a dive. He's going to have fire from Brad Perez now coming out of 2. James Bickford and Anthony Alfredo kind of in the pack of their own as the field again shuffles about 2-3 wide, but many just aiming for single file action so far as they head back to 3.
Rogers in control, and this is a mess in the back of the field. No question about it. As you get a good look at Mark Billis's Bitcoin number 99, there's Justin Malillo hanging back, looking out the front of Billis's machine, trying to go gain a little bit of time on Malillo, on Garrett Miller, on Rowdy Lyons. All these drivers just ahead of Billis, working his way through the mid-teens of this race. You look at Nick Sanchez, who's trying to reel in Will Rogers and give us a battle for the race lead for the first time tonight.
I think in many cases we saw with Adam Cabot, who unfortunately had issues, so he's out of this race early. We saw him as a contender to catch up to Will Rogers, and it seems as though there's more drivers as the night starts to fall, James, that are just getting a grip of their race cars. We've had a lot of issues with the way drivers have made contact or have kind of been having ill handling race cars, but now as the night starts to fall, the grip levels are going to start to go up, and these drivers at this point are starting to get a feel for it, starting to get into their rhythm, and overall they're going to feel a little more comfortable. Maybe not too comfortable, but at least a little more than they did when they started this race. I figure for Nick Sanchez, Brad Perez, hell, even Anthony Alfredo, they're going to start to get more comfortable, and they're already trying to put that pressure as Anthony Alfredo moves for P4 under Bickford.
Alfredo got a good run out of 2 to close up on the rear bumper of Bickford and completed the pass. And how about Ryan Vargas, who not too long ago was stuck up against the fence, and immediately Vargas has made his charge to the field at about 20 laps to get back to the top 5. He's working to the inside of James Bickford and trying to find a place underneath the 29 machine, who just about clipped the fence, and that'll give Vargas the opportunity to go to the outside.
Oh, but look at this pass right now, James, or at least an attempt at a pass for a second. Brad Perez just completely tried to go all the way to the inside grass to pressure Sanchez to block. It did not work. But you talk about Ryan Vargas there in the 6 machine, best opportunity for him that he did not have to burn the fast repair, and he's all the way to the top 5. A fantastic bounce back in only the first 30 laps of this race. Had the mistake early, and now he can focus on the next 90 to catch back up to the front and put that pressure back on fellow NASCAR Xfinity Series competitor Will Rogers, who I think for many is just trying to break the draft, much like the Indy cars at Indianapolis, although it seems to be working for now.
Because these cars, they do have a little bit more power than your standard late model stock car, but they're still designed for short tracks. So once you get towards the end of these long straightaways, especially on a track like this, you do run out of a little bit of power, and it does become a bit of a drafting game. As we look a little bit further back, this is Robbie Lyons, David Shieldhouse, everybody around 11, 12, 13, 14. You see Shane Van Gisbergen in that rainbow-colored machine right there, looking on board with Van Gisbergen. It's just got a windshield full of Shieldhouse and full of Lyons, blocking his path to the top 10 at a battle with Gary Sexton.
And you see it right there, just a long line of cars trying to get back. And I think for David Shieldhouse, he's also in the same strategy of Vargas. Had the mistake early, at least had the wreck a little bit early. Did not burn the fast repair, or I believe did down pit road. Actually, no, he still had the fast repair to his advantage, as he's going to go to the inside of Sexton, just trying to work his way back up to the top 10. And many are just trying to follow him for now, or follow opportunities to the inside. That's where we've seen a lot of passes happen. And Gary Sexton right now, I don't think he's going to have a lot of fun knowing that here comes SVG, and now here comes Robbie Lyons in the 19 trying to also make a move.
There goes Shieldhouse. There goes SVG. Lyons down to the inside. Sexton's just going to get back in line and try and follow these drivers on the inside and figure out what line they're running and why they're able to pick up so much time on him. You can immediately see a bit of a gap coming because we've got Will Rogers now in second. Nick Sanchez has made the move for P1, but it's a train of cars in the front 4 as it's Rogers, it's Brad Perez, and then Anthony Alfredo trying to hold Ryan Vargas back.
A good pass by Nick Sanchez, able to pressure Rogers into going for that outside, and then you see Sanchez able to poke his nose through. And even Brad Perez and Anthony Alfredo, before Alfredo had that little mess up, got a little bit loose in 1 and 2, he was able to catch up significantly to the top 3. As here comes Will Rogers, a bit of a tap and a bit of a shove going into turn 1. He's going to duck his nose in. We have side-by-side battling for the lead, at least for the moment. Here comes Brad Perez for second.
Rogers got a good run to the inside, and then he got sideways and nearly drove it up into Brad Perez on the exit of 2. So Perez checks up to make sure that we don't have an incident on corner exit, but that also allowed Sanchez to get clear of the 65 one again. However, Sanchez was able to just about keep Rogers at bay, but Rogers had a really good run off of turn 4 last time by, and you can see it here. So you get a good look at some of the more drone-like shots that Rogers, like Ryan Vargas earlier in this race, really using the throttle to rotate the rear of his car around and gain a little bit more time through these turns at Worldwide Technology Raceway.
And that's the side of Gateway that you can build a lot of momentum, James, because 1 and 2, we see it very slow. Drivers really have to pace themselves through there and then get off the 11-degree banking. But then they sail into turn 3 and 4, which has lower banking, but it's a wider corner overall, so you can carry a lot more speed in it. And that's what we saw out of Will Rogers, using the momentum, building it up in 3 and 4, and then just straight unleashing it, going back to turn 1, able to stamp hard on the brakes, dig the nose to the inside. The only problem is, because there's not many grooves around this racetrack, we see everybody protecting the bottom, and you saw right there, that's where Nick Sanchez was able to shut the door and pinch Rogers out of it and force him to slow a little bit down, as now everybody's single file throughout most of the top 10 as they head back to turn 3.
Sanchez, Rogers, Brad Perez, and Anthony Alfredo riding in fourth. Justin Prince, you've got a little bit more information on the 38.
And he feels right now he is just good enough to run with the top 3 right now. He feels that to be able to catch the drivers in front of him, he's going to do so by being smooth. He feels that the drivers in front could be overdriving their cars at the moment. He's also currently contemplating about the tire situation for some of the drivers, especially with Ryan Vargas being one of those drivers who pit under the previous caution on behind.
So Alfredo playing the long game here basically is the moral of that story. While he thinks that everybody ahead of him is just driving the wheels off their machines, and maybe so. We might see if Alfredo is vindicated in 20 laps or so, as there goes Rogers to the inside of Sanchez one more time to try and get the race lead back.
He shot it a couple times. This is the attempt that may end up working, although the 96 is really pinching him through 1 and 2. You see Rogers kick out the right rear end just a little bit, and here comes Brad Perez to give that extra drafting help as they head back to turn 3. Wide on board. Perez leaders, touch doors, heading into 3. Rogers going to slide up. Rogers back to the race lead.
Oh, Nick Sanchez trying to give it back to Will Rogers on corner exit, but then had a checkup, and will Brad Perez get the run underneath the 96 to try and get second? Not at this point, but Rogers to the point. Here goes Sanchez back to the bottom again. I don't know if necessarily that was more defense or offense that the 96 was applying, but in either case, he'll hold second for the moment, but here comes Perez. He might have the run to the inside down the back straightaway this time by.
Gonna try to give that bump as you run on board with a 30. Maybe even look to the outside heading into 3. Maybe use the banking to his advantage. He's gonna use the brakes as a way to give him way. But like Justin said on that pit report, James, you talk about Anthony Alfredo and how he was trying to ride around and worry about if these guys are going to overdrive their cars. Right now, they're overdriving for the top 3 positions. You saw right there, Brad Perez kicked it out just a little bit. That's allowed Alfredo to just smoothly but surely run up through this field, and we could potentially see him up in the front if these guys continue to overdrive and be aggressive.
I think there might have been contact there between Anthony Alfredo and Brad Perez, and that allowed Alfredo to sneak underneath the 30 and go get third. So now it's the 38 trying to give chase to Nick Sanchez as Rogers has begun to stretch his lead out just a bit, not too much, but we'll slide a little bit further back. Get a good look at this battle for fifth place because Ryan Vargas is all over DJ Cummings.
I think we forgot to mention, James, that many of these drivers did take tires under the most recent yellow, one of them being Ryan Vargas. He's about 31 laps on his stint, so he did pit a while back, but he does have fresher tires than most of these guys up front who haven't pitted at all over the course of 42 laps. So he also has a tire advantage, but also a very much of a speed advantage as well, qualifying very well, but also to mention just the tires again. That's going to be very big, and if we get into a strategy race, James, we're going to see tires be more effective and more effective and more effective. It's going to continue to escalate as we get through tonight's coverage as we run on board with the 97 to Shane Van Gisbergen trying to catch up to Schildhouse as they head back to 1.
Van Gisbergen trying to get to the inside of Schildhouse, it looked like, but he'll slide up a good bit there in the corner, which is not a surprise to me. I got the chance to test this setup just a hair before we went green flag racing. The one thing I noticed is that if you don't hit your braking points exactly perfectly on corner entry, chances are you're going to slide up anywhere from a half groove to a full groove of where you intended to be through the center of the corners here. And that's a tenth. That's 2 tenths. In some very extreme cases, that could be 3 tenths, and that could be spots that you lose if you don't do it right. So Van Gisbergen up the track a little bit, and Schildhouse with breathing room for the moment as we go back on board with Alfredo, currently trailing just Sanchez and Rogers, but everybody from second to fourth bunched up there like sardines. Brad Perez now in the back of, or in the thick of this rather once again.
And look at the driver right behind him, James. We talked about him on the opening lap that got spun going into turn 1 and 2. That's the 10 of DJ Cummings. His eNASCAR Super Late model has been working its way back up to the front of this field, and a fantastic run for him. We saw him battling with Ryan Vargas. He was able to hold him off. So fantastic way for a lot of these drivers who got into trouble early, now able to really put their skills to the test with the best drivers up at the front of this field. I think that's a great thing to see very early on in this race for them.
And we're about to have a really good battle between Alfredo Perez and TJ Cummings. You saw Perez and Alfredo playing a bit of cat and mouse down the front straightaway the last time by. And Cummings just sitting, waiting, taking the opportunity to reel these two in ever so slightly, turn this maybe into a 3-car battle, as Will Rogers has picked up 3 or 4 tenths on Nick Sanchez, who in turn has picked up about the same gap to Anthony Alfredo. So it's becoming a little bit of first, and then second, and then third, fourth, fifth, as opposed to the top 5 being right on top of each other as it was a few laps ago.
I think for now, Rogers is just aiming to get away from the rest of this field. He had that pressure from Sanchez, luckily was able to get by, and now his plan is just to walk away from the rest of this field. That's going to be the motive here for the driver at 65 until, let's say, we get a long enough green flag run to where they will have to pit, of course, get tires and fuel as well to make it to the end. So if you're Rogers, you just want to clear all the pressure. You don't want to deal with all these guys battling, and let them do the work. Let them overdrive their cars. Let them use their equipment. Let them be aggressive, potentially get into altercations or incidents, and then just slowly but surely walk away. Vargas has been kind of able to do it the past couple of times, as we got one car spinning down low. That's the 07 of Ford Martin. Do we get a yellow flag? I don't believe we will, because he spun underneath the racing surface, James, but that could have been big for the 07. He's going to lose a lot of spots here.
Our Bryant Shock Technologies in-race reporter goes around, but we don't get a yellow flag because he just self-spun. Got the brakes a little bit too hard in the entry of turn 1 and looped himself down to the inside, and somehow managed to keep his car off of everyone else. So good that we didn't get anyone else with damage. Bad though for Ford, and that he slides all the way back to 27th and is now back of Seth Egerton 26 by a solid 2 seconds.
That's tough for the 07, and that's one of the short cases that I think we're probably expecting to see more of, just drivers getting loose and spinning the cars around. Surely it hasn't happened as much as maybe we anticipated it to. You see right there, riding on board the 38 of Anthony Alfredo. You said that we were going to see a fantastic battle up at the front, where here you have it. Here comes the 30 underneath.
Brad Perez looking to the inside. Here comes DJ Cummings, maybe with momentum on Perez to go to his outside, and we may have 2 different battles here. Perez recognizes the threat and slides and shades just in front of the 10 machine to block him off as Alfredo continues to pace this group for third.
And they're just going to keep putting this pressure. And I saw Brad Perez right there in the middle of 3 and 4 just get way loose and really had to wrangle the race car. In many ways, when we talk about the super late model, you talked about it at the top of the show, if there's anything that I can kind of relate to, it's kind of like a very strong tiger in a small cage. You can kind of try to keep it stable as much as you want, but it can unleash at any moment and just go right at you with full aggressivity. That's kind of what it's like using the throttle in these super late models, and especially in a pack when you have all that air going around you and being in a pack with other drivers, it certainly makes it very difficult as you ride on board Perez there and multiple drivers just trying to stay single file again.
The best comparison I can think of in that sense between a super late model and a late model might be between a top fuel and a funny car in the NHR brake. Funny car's got a little bit more beef on the frame, a little bit more weight. It's got a little bit more room to take advantage of some dings, some bends and creases, if you will, whereas that top fuel is very much a speed machine in the extreme. And so far as race cars, though, there goes Alfredo up high. Brad Perez sent it in deep that time and was not wasting his time to get to third, but just one of those cases where you've got a little bit less support. You can kind of see it. You see the beginnings of the straight rails off the rear of Alfredo's machine down underneath the car. But these things are about as purpose-built for speed as you're going to find in a stock car. But that also means they're lighter. They can't quite take the bumps near as well as a short track car can. As it looks like Brad Perez catches the fence, and now here comes DJ Cummings to his inside to get third.
I like the fact that you use actual motorsports cars as a reference, and then I just go out of left field to go with an animal. I go with nature. But nonetheless, you're seeing this great battle right here. Cummings trying to look under Perez and figure that he may have had the nose of an advantage, but actually Perez is able to use the higher group in 3 and 4 to get some of that momentum and able to defend. And now here comes Ryan Vargas, and he goes for a bit of a slide as Alfredo is not having a good time up the front of this field. It seems as though he's getting into some sort of trouble, losing some sort of that speed. He's going to retaliate by going back underneath, and here comes Shane Van Gisbergen to the front as well.
Watch that 38 machine because he's been dumped about 2, maybe 3 times almost there as Van Gisbergen got to the back of the 38 that time by, but Anthony Alfredo has survived the ping-ponging and has managed to keep his car in the top 5, if only for the moment. But again, Van Gisbergen 27th to 6th. How many times have we seen the 97 do this sort of thing in Monday Night Racing Season 3 already? And here he is charging through the field yet again.
Think about it in our memory. Last time he did this was literally last Monday night in the dirt street stocks at Knoxville Raceway, and now he's doing the exact same thing on the rest of the field up front as one driver heads for pit road. That is the 96 of Nick Sanchez. We saw him up near the front of this field, and James, we may end up in a green flag pit stop race at the moment at lap 55.
It's a strategy play. It's a rubber play. Justin Prince, though, you've got information from pit road for us and a little bit more on Anthony Alfredo.
And the temper's definitely continuing to flare up over the radios right now, where after getting drivers into him the past few laps, he has been getting visually more upset as well and is considering the amount of strategies. But the strategy window is opened up, but he's made it emphasized with all the contact, if that's the way they want to race, I'll race them that way.
So Alfredo maybe being a little bit selective, but watch the hip checks here as he comes down pit road with Ryan Vargas, with James Bickford. We're beginning to see green flag cycle of pit stops, drivers trying to set this up so that they can come get their cars lined up and get a little bit fresh rubber on their machines. DJ Cummings now your race leader as Shane Van Gisbergen rides along in second, and they'll stay out for a few more laps. David Schildhouse up to third. How about Josh Slate from Behind the Wall Media hanging out in P4? Haven't talked much about the one machine yet, but Slate's been very consistent, quiet, just hanging around back into the top 10 and doing a nice job and keeping that one machine near the front of the field.
And he started in 12th as well, so he was right in the midst of it all when the mid-pack was going crazy on the restarts and right where the cautions were laying themselves on. So a nice job by Slate to keep his car clean and also just able to pick off position by position. As you see right there, DJ Cummings gonna finally slow the car down, go for the pit road access. He's heading straight for the pits to get his service as Shane Van Gisbergen will stay out and lead a lap.
So DJ Cummings comes in, Schildhouse comes around to take over second as Shane Van Gisbergen leads another lap here in Monday Night Racing. We approach the halfway point of this race, dead in the center of green flag pit stop as these drivers will get tires and will get fuel as well. Worth noting here that for tonight's race, a little bit different setup here as everything gets lined up. Fuel is set to 85% of a standard gas tank, so this is about the distance that you're going to see so far as fuel goes, which means, this could get really fun towards the end if we don't get a yellow flag. Could end up being a fuel mileage race.
It definitely could, and what makes things even more interesting is the fact that, of course, the yellows have made way for drivers to kind of split, make their own decisions, and you're running on board with a driver that I thought was going to stay out a little bit longer. Ryan Vargas, he was on a separate strategy than the leaders. It was about a 10 or 15 lap or so difference between them as Vargas had pitted under one of the yellow flags tonight. And I'm surprised that he did not stay out a little bit longer to maybe lead a lap and maybe control the field a little bit more before finally heading down for service. He actually just went with everybody else in the main pack that was on a different strategy than him. But it's going to make things very interesting if we stay green, because now we're exactly at the halfway mark of this race. Things are going to start to change. The track, of course, has already been changing since the drop of the green flag. And now, if you put in the sweat, the muscles that their drivers are going to have to use to wheel these cars around, you got to put the mindset test as well down pit road.
David Schildhouse currently your leader, not coming down pit road yet. We do have a midway race break to get you, but we'll get you there once we clear the cycle of green flag pit stops so we can get a more accurate sense of where your favorite driver is running in this field. We can tell you as it stands that the first driver off of pit road who's back onto the racetrack is the 96 of Nick Sanchez. He would be your net leader once everything cycles around if this goes green all the way through the rest of the green flag pit stop. But we still have 13 drivers that have yet to come down pit road for service. It's about half the field that's come in and half the field that's waiting to make their stops. And some varying pit strategies here amongst the top 10, because you got drivers like Stephen Fong who haven't pitted at all in the 61 laps we've run this race. We've got drivers who have done things as Will Rogers gets into somebody in the middle of turn 3 and 4. He's stuck up against the fence, and I wait to see if we get a yellow flag for that. Nothing yet, though, but the 65 making contact with one car over in the middle of 3 and 4. It's TJ Majors over in turn 2, who is stuck up along the fence waiting for his moment to turn around, and there TJ Majors finally gets a chance to go.
Oh, a tough stint for TJ Majors. You see him there heading out of pit road. That was after missing pit road the first time he was trying to go down with some damage to his right side. There's Will Rogers on top of him as they head to turn 3. See the pickup right about here. Rogers about sends it in as Majors kind of slows down a bit to the center of the corner and just goes straight for the outside wall on the 5-hour energy sign. I heard Roger Carruth on the radio saying, put it out, but at the moment, I guess no put it out. Caution does away for now.
Caution stays in the hands of race control. One more car, though, I think, in trouble over on the front straight. I thought I saw somebody sliding. Indeed, one more car down to the inside. Looks like the 52 of Garrett Smithley had trouble off of turn 4 and got spun around on corner exit. Looks like drivers are struggling on cold tires after they come out of pit road to get these machines back up to temp.
And you'd think it'd be the opposite way around, that they'd be at least a little bit better on the cold tires, and then it would start to get worse and worse and worse once you really start to wear the rear tires out, or all the tires out, especially throughout this track. But I guess on the cold tires, that's where the drivers are having the most issues, and you saw it there with Smithley having a one off turn 4. And again, this time by, James, we've yet to see Shieldhouse and many others go down pit road, which I'm kind of surprised about. Is this possibly a strategy to just extend it all the way, put some distance, and then try to make it to the end of this race without having to stop again?
I would think so, yeah. If you give it 55 laps to the end, you're trying to make sure you can make it to the end, which for a lot of these drivers that have already come down pit road, it'll be close. Not borderline out of the question, but anybody who pit, especially under those first few yellows that we had, or in the first 20 laps or so, you come down now and you start to have a chance. The window begins to open right about now, coming to 55-ish laps to go in this race. So
yeah, that's going to be big, at least by the time we get to the pit strategy. You see right there, Nick Sanchez, he's trying to unlap himself. He's one of the many that have been put down one lap. There's only 11 cars on the lead lap at the moment because Shieldhouse has stayed out, because everybody else has also stayed out too. But fresh tires are just going to start to come into the fold. They're going to start to carry all this speed, and they're just going to start picking off each and every driver that's in front of them. Whether it's a lap machine or not, it's going to be any case. They're going to try and get around there. I think that's a similar way why you saw Rogers very aggressive trying to go into turn 3. That's because he just has all the grip. Just trying to get around TJ Majors, and the closing rate is just very big. But I guess we're just going to have to play the waiting game, and see when Shieldhouse pits, and maybe this could be a strategy that wins him the race.
It's biggest thing is to make sure he can make it to the end, like you said, Kenneth. Yeah. And for him and for a lot of these other drivers currently working the 42nd, 43rd laps of their stint, we saw the rest of the field coming about 55 laps into their stint. So you figure probably about another 10 laps before we see Shieldhouse and everybody else in the top 10 on pit road.
Well, maybe a little bit earlier for Roger Carruth, and actually he is already signaling his way down pit road. He was running third. He was 51 laps into his stint. So finally, he's going to give his iRacing machine a stop down pit road and a slow to get his fresh tires and fuel to try and make it all the way to the end. I think you make a good point there, James, that they're going about 55 laps. So I guess we'll be waiting a while before Shieldhouse and the rest of the gang going to finally end up down pit road. And this is going to make things only tougher for the guys who are trying to cycle back, because if a yellow comes out, that's going to put a lot of drivers a lap down. And for Sanchez, it'll probably be beneficial, but for everybody else, it's going to be so tough to get back into the fold. As you see Shieldhouse there's Brad Perez and Anthony Alfredo. Perez running 11th, Alfredo running 12th right now.
Sanchez, and then Perez, and then Alfredo. And remember, Alfredo and Perez had that get together about 15 laps ago, and Anthony, I don't think has forgotten about that. So I would not expect any favors to go to Brad Perez if Alfredo can draw even with that 30 car. That could be a fun battle to watch as Showdowns continues to put more of this field lap down. That's Seth Eggert, that he just managed to put another lap down. Here comes Alfredo trying to chase down Brad Perez as they clear the 57 machine, but everybody waiting at this time to see when Showdowns comes in, when Anders Krohn will come in, when Matt Stelneck will come in, when Max Kennan will come in, but Showdowns clear by 6.4 seconds over Anders Krohn. Of these folks on this alternate strategy, David Schildhouse is just walking everybody, at least up to this point.
He certainly is, and this strategy may end up putting him right in the catbird seat as we're coming to the final 50 laps, because things are going to start to tick down. The time is again going to start to run out, and if we don't get that yellow, remember, we're seeing Showhouse stay out a bunch of laps. He's about more 10, 15, maybe 20 laps out right now. These guys behind him, although Perez and Alfredo, all these guys are on fresh rubber, that's going to start to wear away as they're running on the racetrack. You see them trying to get by Showhouse to lap themselves. But over time, they're going to get slower and slower and slower, all because the tires are just going to naturally wear like they do in any sort of stint with these cars and, of course, on the oval. So when Shildhouse, Krohn, Kennan, all these guys that are on the alternate strategy go down pit road, they're going to have the fastest cars on the racetrack due to those fresh tires, and they're going to have the advantage in case over everybody else, especially with the fact that Shildhouse has lapped this many drivers in the field so far.
There goes Anthony Alfredo to unlap himself from David Schildhouse. They nearly made contact in 3 last time by. It's a big chop that Schildhouse threw down on Alfredo as he tried to get slowed down. Alfredo was coming into 3 with a ton of momentum, and you see the difference there between old and fresh tires, and Shane Van Gisbergen too, who comes out of nowhere on the fresh rubber. But those drivers on fresh tires can just drive so deep into the corner. Schildhouse is beginning his braking sequence about 2 or 3 car lengths earlier than those on fresh tires, and when you're getting to quarter entry, that can make things a little bit scary for people.
It can, and you saw the closing right there between Majors and Rogers in a wide corner like turn 3, but what's happening here out of turn 2? Very big pack, and you saw the 96 of Sanchez and Majors go around. Anthony Alfredo gets spun on the back straightaway. He goes into the outside wall. Surely this will bring a yellow flag, and James Pike, it does.
Fresh tires versus old tires causing absolute calamity here as TJ Majors gets into Anthony Alfredo. There's trouble with the 2 and the 38. The 6 of Ryan Vargas had absolutely nowhere to go. Same thing, I believe, for the 17 of Adam Cabot, who just got clipped there and smacked the wall. Or actually managed to keep it off the fence, amazingly. Nice job from Adam Cabot there to not completely run the fence down in turn 3. No damage to the 17. Impressive work there from Cabot, but we do have the yellow flag that will effectively reset things, but comes as a blessing for those drivers who have yet to come down pit road.
It's going to be a blessing indeed for Schildhouse, all the drivers there. You see, actually, there was a 52 of Garrett Smith who spun by himself. He had nothing to do with this incident on the back straightaway. You see there, Majors and Alfredo make contact. There's Vargas getting into it. Nice job by the 10 of DJ Cummings to stay out of all that mess, to break in time and to find the space where the seas parted going into turn 3. Fantastic job to take a look at it one more time, as pretty much everything unfolds right in front of him.
I couldn't tell there. I couldn't tell whether or not TJ Majors didn't know that Alfredo was there or tried to get into him or something, but there was something amiss between the 2 and the 38. That's where this starts, and then it all just explodes from there as everybody now comes down pit road. Justin Prince, what do you have from the folks that are on the second strategy who got a very big break with that yellow flag?
Yes, indeed, and this should get them to the end on fuel from this point forward based on some of the runs going about 50 or so laps for some of the competitors. So this has now played out exactly how they were hoping. Now should be working on tempers are overflowing for obvious reasons. The most tense it's been throughout the entire race. It's been an intriguing situation, to say the very least, from this caution.
A very, very, very interesting proposition that we are going to be left with. But as the field begins to come around, we are going to take you through our iRacing Midway Race Break, which we promised you, as always, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the world of outlaws, and more. We can tell you that Nick Sanchez and Brad Perez decided to stay out under this yellow, so they get the track position. They inherit the lead and second place, respectively. David Schildhouse will take over P3. Fourth will be Anders Krohn. Matt Stolnick rides in the fifth position. Max Kennan will restart sixth. Seventh will be Shane Van Gisbergen. Mike Clay, what a recovery from him. He'll restart eighth. Brett Baldock will restart in the ninth position, and 10th is going to be, I believe, Anthony Alfredo.
Currently 11th, sits with the 13 of Gary Sexton. Actually, no, Will Rogers took that over since losing spots, as Ryan Vargas would be 12th, DJ Cummings 13th, Gary Sexton going to be in P14 this time by, actually down to P16. We'll get to P15 as all the guys go by. Stephen Ellis, DJ Cummings, James Bickford, Raja Karuth, and Robbie Lyons in the 19, who currently caps off the top 20 so far, James.
A lot of folks that are coming down pit road there is poor Gary Sexton was stuck right in the middle of all of that. He comes off of pit road, should be about, I believe, 15 is where Sexton's going to land. So we'll run that back, actually, make sure we cover it. So Rogers, Alfredo, Welch, Rabillas, Ellis, Sexton, Vargas, Cummings, looks like a Font and Bickford here. There's Josh Slate jumps up there. Ford Martin getting his wave around. He'll be 20th. Bickford now back to 21st. 22nd is Ron Shewell. Lots of shuffling around here to make this hard. Raja Karuth 23rd, Robbie Lyons 24th, Justin Malillo 25th, Seth Eggert 26th, TJ Majors 27th, Adam Cabot in 28th, Gabe Wood 29th, Garrett Smithley 30th, and Drew Welker completing this 31 car field. That is your iRacing Midway Race Break, and with over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. Biggest point, I think, worth noting here, Nick Sanchez, Brad Perez stayed out. Also, Will Rogers stayed out in 11th. Dylan Welch stayed out in 13th. James Bickford stays out in 25th, too. But Sanchez and Perez, who have been two of the quickest cars all night in this Beef Jerky Unlimited 120 Cannon, gonna lead this field to green, but on old tires.
That's going to be very detrimental to them if they don't pull it off the right way, because it's a very big difference. These guys pitted 2 laps ago, just right now. Shieldhouse and the rest of the guys on that strategy. So I believe once you get to the restart, Sanchez could get the jump he wants, get the jump he desires, but he may end up just getting eaten by the field once he gets to this restart. That may be very scary for them.
Going to be very interesting to see whether or not Nick Sanchez and Brad Perez can maintain the top spots in this race with the older tires underneath their machines. Before we go back green flag racing, we'll tell you about some of the upcoming events in the world of iRacing. 2 events from the official side of things. The eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series from Pocono comes your way tomorrow night. Pre-race at 8:30 on iRacing's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube channels. Then Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, it's the first race of the eNASCAR International iRacing Series, featuring drivers from Canadian, Mexican, European, and grassroots racing in NASCAR. They'll take to Brands Hatch, the circuit just about an hour to the southeast of London in the United Kingdom. Start time for that race will be 6 p.m. Eastern time. You can see that on the eNASCAR.com portal at eNASCAR.com/live. M&R is racing Road America with the next-gen cars. Next Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, the Podium 2 Twitch channel, as well as the Podium Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. And then the eNASCAR Road to Pro Qualifying iRacing Series returns with Round 2 from Knoxville Raceway on July 8th on the Podium Esports Twitch channel, as we begin to work our way towards the Contender Series and find out which 20 drivers will go and try and race their way into the Coke Series for next year. lights came back on the pace car. We were about to go green flag racing, and then the yellow was extended to get everybody lined up properly. So lots of shuffling in the order, trying to get people lined up and organized the way they need to be. This is James Mike, Kenneth Bueno, Justin Prince down on pit road, and Ryan Bauer producing all the shots you're seeing this evening with cameras brought to you by Dougie Beard. And it is Sanchez Perez on the old tires. Everybody else behind them all the way back to Will Rogers and Dylan Welch in 12th and 13th. Sitting around and working on fresh rubber, which could make things very fun. You've also got two of the most aggressive drivers in this field, at least amongst the 80 laps that we've run tonight, or just about, in Perez and Sanchez. And certainly no surprise if we see those two potentially get together. We know that Nick Sanchez isn't afraid to throw the elbows out. Brad Perez has been, I think, sneakily on the gas pedal in a lot of these situations. We're going to see just how aggressive they feel like they need to be as we get set for this restart on lap 80 of 120, Kenneth.
Well, James, we'll see how aggressive the guys behind the front row get on this restart, but nonetheless, a very early start by Nick Sanchez. I think that's the first time we've seen that here tonight, where the leader goes that early, about 4 wide near the mid-pack, as Gary Sexton's in a dead heat battle with Mike Clay down low. You see, I believe, Matt Sonics in this group as well, the 21 of Max Kennan. But meanwhile, up at the front of this field, here comes David Schildhaus trying to make his way for a second, but that will be before the caution flag gets thrown once more.
Yellow was out, and one car around in the back of the field. It is the 46 machine of Steven Ellis. I can see race control was trying to hold back on the yellow. There were a lot of cars that went sideways on that initial restart. So let's go to the 14 of Dylan Welch coming into turn 1. That's where this all starts. He gets a little bit of help from Ryan Vargas, and Vargas goes at the racetrack, bounces off Alfredo. Everybody checks up trying to avoid the 14 machine, and Ellis eventually goes around off the nose of the 14 car and up into the turn 2 fence. Looks like Gabe Wood got spun just at the back of this too, but Dylan Welch, the beginning of this particular incident, not particularly his fault per se, just sort of ping-ponged off a lot of drivers on a restart. Not much I think that anyone could have done in that incident, but it does bring out the yellow flag once again.
And you saw there the 99 of Mark Rubilis also got a piece of this. You run on board with the 53 of Justin Melillo right in front of him. Really nowhere to go. Just the reaction time just too small in that sort of sequence there, as you see the 53 going through, and I saw the drivers going all the way down to the grass, and then it was just, they seemed to be okay for the most part, but it was that part right there where the 46 Ellis just got clipped, just trying to continue on in turn 2 with the 14 of Welch. That's really what set off all of this as he run on board with TJ Majors. He's had a rough night. We saw a rough sighting right in front of him as he went to the 11-degree banking.
Majors here just watching chaos unfold in front of him, and just maybe not necessarily getting on the brakes, but just being delicate in his application of the throttle, not necessarily trying to blitz through the situation, but he got through, and keeps that number 2 machine at least somewhat in peace.
You gotta reckon if you're behind the wheel there, James, you gotta be at least trembling a little bit, because with the way that TJ Majors' night has gone, he doesn't want to get involved in anything else. He doesn't want to be involved in something that could potentially take him out of this race with the beating that he's took tonight at Gateway. So to watch that right in front of him, he's got to think, oh no, not again, not again. Stay out of it, stay out of it. That's exactly what he did.
6th yellow flag of the evening here in this Beef Jerky Unlimited 120 for Monday Night Racing, working our way inside the final third of tonight's proceedings at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway within iRacing. 39 laps to go, and Nick Sanchez, Brad Perez didn't really get the chance to strut their stuff all that much on the restart, save for the fact that we saw Sanchez go early. So now, if you're Brad Perez, you've seen that move once from Sanchez, and I would imagine in most cases like this where you get multiple restarts, the key for Sanchez is going to be to mix up your restart points so that people can't read when you start going. You can get the jump every single time. You have to randomize it though a little bit to make sure that people don't get the jump on you.
And that's the thing we saw with Will Rogers a little bit earlier. Although he was a little more predictable, this time Sanchez, with that tire disadvantage, he wants to kind of be on the oddball. That's the advantage you have as a control car in these restart chains, and you can't emphasize it at least hard enough, to the point where the leader can go any point after the pace car goes off. Just throw the rest of the field out of whack and just make them try to predict you, but then they can't predict you, and by the time they know that they were trying to predict you, it's already too late. They're already thrown off their pace, and you already have a couple car length lead going into turn 1. And I figure for Sanchez, that really helped him because as soon as the yellow flag came out, he had all that space from him and the rest of the field. No attack yet from Showhouse. We'll see what happens, though, when they go back green. This is the second time it'll happen.
Pace car going to head down to pit road once again. Nick Sanchez will have the opportunity to either go early or go late. He goes early again, about as early as he did the first time, which is going to allow him to clear as David Schildhouse got a good restart. Brad Perez had to shade down to the inside to keep the 20th bay at least for the moment as Van Gisbergen hip checks on his ground, and David Schildhouse gets into Brad Perez and sends the 30 into the fence. Hard contact for Perez. Yellow flag out once again.
Oh, and a big flip behind that. That's Brett Baldick in the 4 on his roof. Flips back on his side. Back to 4 wheels. Saw Gary Sexton down there slow as well to avoid all of this. Oh, well, we saw how aggressive. You mentioned how Sanchez and Perez were the most aggressive in this field. I mentioned how the drivers on fresh tires are going to be aggressive. Right there, the descent to turn 1. Got the 30 out of shape. It was the overcorrection that sent him in a way big of a trouble. There goes the 4. DJ Cummings, Raja Caruth in it. And that's what sent Baldick up on his side, up on his roof, and facing the fence directly.
Not much I think you can do if you're Brad Perez. That's the hardest thing about this is that for Perez, he got bumped, and I could tell immediately got on the brakes, held the brakes pretty quickly, and managed to at least keep the car stuck up there where you need it to be. But by the time he finally got it stuck up there, he was pile driven by Brett Baldick. He was trying to avoid everybody on the inside and just did not expect there to be anyone up top. And then heavy contact for him. He goes up to the fence. Raja Caruth hits the wall. That's likely night over for the 6 machine because I believe that Raja's already used his fast repair, and indeed he has. So rough night there for Raja, and a lot of cars around and all over the place.
Seemed as though the restarts are just the trouble spots there, James. We only saw about maybe a couple cars get into incidents under green, but the restarts, when everybody's packed in, that's the worst place to be. And for Brad Perez right there, small send, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Nothing he could do at all.
Raja Caruth has pulled it behind the wall. He's out of fast repairs. That's night over for him. Restarts have been changed to single file. We're going to take a quick break and be back with more action from iRacing's virtual worldwide technology raceway at Gateway. You're watching coverage of Monday Night Racing's Beef Jerky Unlimited 120 on Podium Esports.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Maconi Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Maconi Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Maconi Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MaconiSetupShop.com and learn why Maconi Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Welcome back to Monday Night Racing, which is brought to you by Big Green Egg, the world's largest producer and international distributor of the highest quality ceramic Commodore-style charcoal grills. BGE has spent over 40 years mastering the recipe for the best, most versatile, fuel-efficient, and easy-to-use Kamado-style grills across the globe, and the Egg offers more cooking options than all other conventional cookers combined. With an Egg, there's no need for a separate grill, or smoker, or pizza oven, or rotisserie device because the Egg does all of this and more to perfection. For more information, visit their website at biggreenegg.com. Lights off on the pace car. Nick Sanchez in control. 34 coming to 33 laps to go. Does he jump off and take off ahead of David Schildhouse? Yes, he does. Good lead for the 96 machine. Can Van Gisbergen get to the inside of the 20 before we get to turn 1?
This is the most separation we've seen out of any restart so far here tonight with about 33 to go. A little bit up the racetrack goes Schildhouse and Van Gisbergen, but it's all to arc themselves out of turn 2. So far, Sanchez has been the lone survivor on the oldest tires. We'll see how long that lasts when they head back to turn 3.
So now we'll see what David Schildhouse can do, what Van Gisbergen can do. Here comes Van Gisbergen to the inside of David Schildhouse, looking for the second position.
And a nice move underneath, and I figured that Schildhouse was going to get the advantage on Sanchez and try to look to the outside, but there goes SVG right to the bottom, and again, clears his way on his journey to the front from P27 on the grid. He's going to get his nose out front, and watch who's another car going to be in this battle. 47, Anders Krone, he's looking in as well.
Now, Anders Krone, who was up near the front at the beginning of this, he was at the top 5 early on, got spun around and moved, and all of a sudden, here comes Krone to the inside as Van Gisbergen finding pace, finding speed, and beginning to run down Nick Sanchez on old tires for the race lead.
You got to figure that Sanchez has just been eyeing on his rearview mirror every single lap by, but he's done a miraculous job to stay ahead of these guys on the fresh tires and not succumb to all of that pressure, but the pressure is going to mount right here. The 97 going to use the outside. The 97 going to find his nose there. He's going to make the move. No, he's not, but he's going to revert back to the inside, and here comes SVG putting the pressure for the race lead.
Nick Sanchez went all the way to the bottom to try and block SVG, but here goes Van Gisbergen and moves him out of the way, and then Schildhouse gets into the back of the 96, and he gets turned off the nose of Nick Sanchez, and the yellow flag comes out again. Mayhem right at the front of this field as they were fighting for the race lead in second, as that starts, I guess in theory, with Van Gisbergen, continues with Sanchez, finishes off with Schildhouse, and the yellow flag out one more time.
Well, the lone survivor, James, on old tires stands no more. Second time we see an incident with the driver on fresh tires versus the driver on old tires. You saw right there, the 97 gave the 96 a tap, sent him out of whack, then directly sent him to the 20, careened him to the outside wall. Saw Maxwell Kennan, the 21. He got a little bit loose down low, but he picked up no damage. Take a look at this for the 20 of Schildhouse, looking for another good point save with 30 to go. And at that point, nowhere really, or no action he could really take as he gets clipped.
That's a really tough break for Schildhouse because nothing he could have done. Sanchez was just trying to get back to the ash and immediately got into Schildhouse, turned him around. So Schildhouse will come down pit road to get his car fixed up. Likely going to take the fast repair, but it also means that Shane Van Gisbergen is out in front again here, if you can believe it, 27 to first. Can anyone stop this Kiwi? Can anyone do anything to keep him at bay?
You know what? I think you're asking the wrong person. I don't think anyone knows, frankly. Maybe apart from himself, that he knows his own weaknesses, but I'm not sure anybody knows the answer. It's been a fantastic season so far for Shane Van Gisbergen. We saw him take the win of the Pro 2 trucks at Watkins Glen. We were like, okay, he's got some speed on the road. But what about the ovals, though? Then he goes out, gets 2 dirt wins. The street stocks in Knoxville last week, the dirt trucks, or the trucks at Bristol Dirt, and now on his way potentially for a 4th race win of the season on an asphalt oval with asphalt oval cars. It'll be monumental for him if he can get this win. But remember, there's still 29 to go, James. We still have a lot of time left.
A lot of time left, but worth noting that no one has won 3 races in a row in Monday Night Racing since Parker Kligerman did it back in June of season 1 last year. So Van Gisbergen trying to set a record here and line it up. Put 4 wins in a season for the first time ever. I take that back. Different records that we're working with here because with apologies to Adam Cabot and Stephen Wilson, forgot about their ability to break this up amongst the group. So Van Gisbergen in control of this. Also of note for all of you watching at home that if you might be interested in advertising with Podium Esports, there is space available for you. Podium Esports has room for a wide variety of different budgets, a plan for different kinds of solutions, and can custom develop solutions to suit your business or brand's needs best. For more information on the wide variety of partnership possibilities, send an email to admin@podiumesports.com. Lights off of the pace car. Van Gisbergen, Anders Krone, Matt Stolnick from 16th to 3rd, who has run a very patient race and waited. And same thing here. Look at Will Rogers in 4th, even on the old tires there. Anthony Alfredo back up to 5th. Josh Slade in there. Max Kinnan. So some of the names that we've talked about who had been biding their time, beginning to rise to the front, Kenneth, as we work our way towards the checkered flag.
And this is going to be monumental for those guys who got into trouble and are now able to pick their way back up. An official decision to go single file on this restart. Shane Van Gisbergen going to go at about where the theoretical restart zone is in real life. And there goes the 97 directly for turn 1, 3 wide for second as Will Rogers trying to punk his nose through.
Oh, contact there between Rogers and Anthony Alfredo as Alfredo crosses Rogers over to try and get fourth away from the 65. Crone was able to hold off Stolnagh in the middle of 1 and 2. And Shane Van Gisbergen is clear of this by half a second already as they go back to 3.
He just wants to let them do the work and do everything for him. But what a comeback it's been, though, for the 38 of Anthony Alfredo. We saw him in that incident under the pit cycle and now looking underneath the 65 on his way to try and catch Matt Stolnagh for P3 and catch up to Crone, Van Gisbergen, etc. into turn 1. He'll dive into, keep his Ford Mustang nose clean. He's going to make that pass and maybe catch up to the 41 in time.
Anders Crone in second still. Stolnagh trying to make something happen on the outside as Alfredo goes to his inside. Looks like Seth Eggert there at the top of the screen spun, but all for the Racing Services. Alfredo gets moved by Will Rogers. He hangs on to it ever so slightly, but that'll clear Stolnagh, or rather, Stolnagh indeed will clear to go to third. Alfredo fourth, Rogers fifth. Josh Slate went sideways. He's a little bit further back. And how about Max Cannon in the 21 car? We've not called his name barely at all tonight. Here he is right on the edge of the top 5.
Well, it's a game of survival, and the 21 of Maxwell Cannon is playing it right. Remember, he got a top 3 last Monday night at the Knoxville Raceway with the dirt street stock, so he could be looking at, again, another solid finish to keep him stable in the point standings going into Chicagoland with the NASCAR Xfinity machines. As he run on board with the 38 Alfredo, just trying to stalk on the back of the eNASCAR machine. Matt Stolnagh for third.
Stolnagh there, maybe a car length ahead of Alfredo as Van Gisbergen continues to open it up on Anders Crone. Difference is now almost a full second from the 97 to the 47 as Alfredo continues to work the rear bumper of the 41.
He's going to need to put this pressure, but remember, if this stays green, the time is going to start to dwindle and dwindle ever so slightly as you watch a little bit further back. This is the battle for P10. Ryan Vargas underneath the 11 of Seaball Font. You ride on board with Joshua Slate. We saw him a little sideways through 3 and 4, lost a couple spots, but is now just trying to pick back up from when he lost there. And you see right in front of him Garrett Miller in the 36. We also haven't mentioned his name all night long. He's sitting in the top 10 as well.
I think Ryan Vargas might win the award for most cars passed this evening. I feel like he's driven through the field about 3 or 4 times as Alfredo nearly got into Stolnagh there on the exit of 2. You saw a good shot there on the onboard cams. You just about saw the contact between the 41 and the 38. Will Rogers waiting for his moment. Anders Crone continuing to stretch this out and stretching out the gap from second to third as Van Gisbergen continues to open it up on Anders Crone.
And you watch a nice 2x2 battle here. You see the 20 of David Schoenhaus. You're riding on board with him. The driver in front of him, DJ Cummings. You talked about him a couple times tonight, but we did not reference the point standings going into this race and going into the final 2 races of the regular season tonight. DJ Cummings needs a very good points event because he is only 4 points out of Ford Martin, who is all the way near the rear of the field. But looking back to the front, Will Rogers again putting the pressure on Anthony Alfredo. He's going to shut the door to in 3 and 4. Alfredo will keep position for now.
They were 3 wide down the back straightaway, and Alfredo wins the battle between Rogers, and Stolnagh to go to P3. Don't think that Rogers is done with him just yet, though. Meanwhile, Stolnagh slipping back. You may have to worry about Max Cannon, who's beginning to find speed late in this Beef Jerky Unlimited 120. Van Gisbergen still ahead of Crone, though. It's up to 1.4 seconds. He's 0.2 faster than Crone pretty much every lap, and Crone has got about 2 to 3 tenths on this battle for third on every lap. So you'd obviously get anything in first and second. It's everything behind that we're watching as we go on board with DJ Cummings in 12.
Well, he's in a line of 3 cars right now just trying to pummel their way through the field. We talk about Vargas, pretty much should be on the list for most cars passed here tonight. And you see a lot of these other guys also trying to make a name for themselves as well. Schoenhaus coming back from that incident in a turn 3 right in front of him, though. James Bickford about goes around goes to the inside. Grass will stay clean as Bigford keeps it together on the pit access road. That could have been a very scary moment, and even more so, another car, I believe Steven Ellis around on the grass. No caution with 20 laps to go.
Ellis around indeed. Alfredo just holding off of Will Rogers, who might get a run down the front straightaway. He'll look to the inside of the 38 car and potentially stick his nose underneath Alfredo's Sim Seats Ford Mustang to try and wrest away P3. Nothing doing yet. They might be 3 wide just behind them, though. Watch this between Max Kidd and Matt Stelnick and Ryan Vargas at a turn 2.
And Vargas completely sent into turn 1. He had to use the rumble strips at the bottom of the track to make that move stick, and he gets the best of both worlds out in front of both of them and to the top 5 he remains. So a up and down roller coaster evening for Ryan Vargas, and now his sights are just straight set on the top 2 that have been very aggressive in the top 3, James.
Inside 20 laps to go as this battle for P3 continues to roar. Vargas, I think, may have finally gotten the best of that group for 5th, 6th, and 7th. Stalnick sliding a little bit further back. Kinnan sliding a little bit further back. But Vargas able to maintain time, so you know that Ryan Vargas is going to try and charge on his good buddy Will Rogers and maybe, just maybe, go get Anthony Alfredo too. Last time by, speeds were pretty much even between 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
And what I've noticed between these guys, James, over the course of tonight, especially with guys like Anthony Alfredo, like Brad Perez we saw earlier, and of course, like your pole sitter, the 65 of Will Rogers, is that in many cases with these cars at this track, with the way it's so narrow, you almost have to be aggressive to make these moves and to dive your nose in. We saw a lot of doors shut, and that's really what you have to do in order to keep position and tuck them away behind you. And that's what we saw out of the 38 and the 65. You run on board a little bit further behind. That's Max Kennan trying to put the pressure on the 41 of Matt Stalnick. Even further behind, Cummings still leading this group with Mike Clay and David Schildhouse in the 20.
Schildhouse here, Cummings here. Just a lot of drivers who are trying to redeem themselves after being involved in incidents earlier. These two in particular, Cummings and Schildhouse, that you see off the front end of Mike Clay, were up near the front at some point in this race and are just trying to claw back the track position. Meanwhile, here's Max Kennan trying to work his way around Stalnick for 6th.
And we talked about his group up through the field, just trying to catch up. He started all the way back in P18, so he was all the way near the mid-pack, and a nice run for him. Talk about point standings. Max Kennan has a heap of them, 216 going into tonight, and maybe an extra point here, ducking his nose underneath Matt Stalnick, and here's the pass for P6.
That was beautiful work there from Max Kennan. Looking a little bit further back to David Schildhouse. This is DJ Cummings and Josh Slate that are up in front of him as Schildhouse waits to get on the gas, trying to make a move here on Cummings, who just could not quite get going on the inside out of turn 2. So Schildhouse will look to the outside as Cummings goes to the inside to try and pass Josh Slate.
Open right in front of them. You're watching that battle there, but it is getting tight once more between Will Rogers and Anthony Alfredo. Rogers gave him a shove. You see Anthony Alfredo way loose out of turn 4, and now here comes Ryan Vargas behind them to also make this a 3-horse race. Down to the inside, it goes to 65, but Rogers, he'll try to shoot for P3 for the moment. They remain door-to-door as they head out of turn 2.
Just trying to hang on to these cars as they exit the corner. You want to put the power down as soon as you can, but you can't just completely full throttle it, or you'll spin yourself out. It's a balancing game that you have to play. That's what makes driving these late models at Gateway such an entertaining challenge to watch, as you see the onboards here from Alfredo as Rogers to his inside trying to get P3.
As they continue side by side, James, that's only going to make the path for Ryan Vargas easier and easier. He's been catching them the last time by. He's been relatively faster. Last time he set a 35 flat, while the guys up in front of him set 35 ones and 35 twos. So as they try to remain aggressive, it's only allowing Vargas to go, hey guys, I'm here. I'll just catch these 2 more spots and I'll see you later.
Ryan Vargas incredibly quick as Will Rogers is going to come down to pit road. So there's the call for fuel on the 65, and that could spell trouble for some of the other drivers here who are yet to come down pit road. But I think Rogers was the only one who had yet to pit early on in this race, so the lack of pitting under these yellows cost Rogers. He comes down pit road, and that will take him out of contention, likely for a good finish, unfortunately. But it also means that Ryan Vargas will assume the mantle of challenger to Anthony Alfredo, and it will be the 38 racing the 6 for 3rd as we close out the Beef Jerky Unlimited 128 Gateway.
Well, I guess I was talking about I'll get the 2 spots, I'll see you later. Well, you'll get the 1 spot and then try to work on Anthony Alfredo. So tough, though, for Will Rogers. I don't think we really pointed it out that Rogers had stayed out so long. to the point where he needs fuel with under 15 laps to go. Obviously, that's going to take him out of contention for the race win and maybe even for top 20. He's easily going to get put 1, 2, maybe 3 or more laps down, and depending on how long he makes his stay. So that's going to be even tougher for your defending champion, as now he has his pit road. But a fantastic run here to the finish, James, in the latter half of the top 10. Here's David Schildhouse working on Joshua Slate for P7.
Big move there from David Schildhouse to try and get a spot. He's going to bring DJ Cummings with him on the inside as Slate gets stuck up in the high groove and up in the marbles and the loose rubber. Might make things a little bit tricky for him on corner exit. He'll cede the spot. Here comes the 20 machine to the inside of Matt Stolnick to try and get 6th.
And these are all for well-earned points down the line. Talked about DJ Cummings, David Schildhouse in that group as well. He's clear of the playoffs at the moment, but every point means so much in the final 10 laps of a race that has been very difficult for pretty much every driver in this field. Up ahead, though, in P4, we saw the battle between Rogers and Alfredo. We may have another battle on our hands. 2 NASCAR drivers, Anthony Alfredo, Ryan Vargas, may duel for P3 as they try to catch Anders Krohn.
Everybody digging, trying to find something, but nothing yet amongst this group as Ryan Vargas continues to look for an opening to the inside of Anthony Alfredo. Nothing between these two at the moment. You see Max Kennan's managed to stretch it out on David Schildhouse and company behind him as DJ Cummings goes to the inside of Stolnick to try and get 7th.
He's in the wall. The 38's in the wall. He got tapped by the 6 of Ryan Vargas going into turn 3. He's going to try and dump him into turn 4. That's not going to bring a yellow. And now Vargas gets sent to the outside wall. Does this bring a yellow by the race officials? For now, the answer is no. But that was a very aggressive move by Vargas to hit his back bumper going into turn 3. Anthony Alfredo was having absolutely none of it.
Alfredo checked it up, saved it, got the fence, then manages to get into the 6 machine here, coming down the racetrack. And Vargas, I think, may have tried to go for the full send to just end the whole thing right in front of Max Kennan. And race control, I believe, says something to the effect of, you 2 kids cut it out. We're not going to have that sort of racing here in this place. So no ruling there. Vargas goes down to the end. Alfredo still in P3. Wildly enough, even with the damage there. Now it's Max Kennan that he's going to have to try and fight off. And David Schildhouse, importantly, he might be the wild card in this. Schildhouse has got the freshest tires of anyone here by about 20 laps.
Yeah, at one point it was Ryan Vargas who had the freshest tires. He had pitted the least amount of laps to go. But now, of course, with that incident with Vargas being sent to the rear with that crash, that's going to put, of course, David Schildhouse in that spot to catch up to all of these guys. Here's a nice battle, though, for P9. This is Gary Sexton. We haven't talked about him much tonight. Podium Esports' Zone, trying to work his way to the front of this field. And through many cases, James, in this race, we've seen drivers who have been mired back in the field, just kind of hide in the shadows. But then as soon as the lights start to flicker on, they start to shine brighter than anything on this racetrack. Sexton trying to make his beautiful Dodge Charger machine work on Stolnick at the moment.
Also of note, that incident between Ryan Vargas and Anthony Alfredo will be under review over the course of the end of this evening, so we might not have seen the last of that so far as rulings and potential suspensions, points, penalties, that sort of thing. But was noted by Race Control, Josh Mendoza and company, that that incident is going to get a very long look at the end of this race. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more on that. In the meantime, here's Gary Sexton in 9th, working to the inside of Matt Stolnick, who has slid back on the old tires. The 41 not quite as strong as it was some 20 laps ago.
And it definitely hasn't been as strong. We've seen Stolnick on the older tires just kind of fall off frequently with the way these drivers have kind of just been putting themselves by. It's also to note, of course, that many drivers in front of him have fresher tires, so it's not like Stolnick is just at a complete disadvantage on speed. But this right here, that battle right in front of him and Joshua Slate, they're about on the same strategy. He lost that position out, and now the fresher tire Gary Sexton's going to work his way to the inside. We may have another challenger on our hands, James, though, for P3 again. Alfredo having to defend, this time against the 21 of Max Kennan.
This almost feels like a Royal Rumble here. It's next man up trying to go after Anthony Alfredo, but the 38 has held all of them off up to this point, to his great credit. And as they come around the stripe, it'll be 2 laps to go when Van Gisbergen comes back around. But Alfredo running just about identical lap times to Max Kennedy, even with the damage to the left side, the right side of his car. It's all over the place with the 38 car, and yet Alfredo's still got a podium finish in hand.
I'll probably reference Super Smash Bros. The next challenger, Max Kenin, puts his hat into the ring or something like that. Put a saying in that sort of sequence right there.
I was thinking that. I couldn't quite pull the reference, but I'm glad you did it. Yeah, a big love for Super Smash Brothers. A childhood favorite of, I think, anybody's that grew up in the 90s and the 2000s. But regardless, Shane Van Gisbergen cleared this field by 5.6 seconds with 2 laps to go. Nothing doing between him or Anders Krohn, who's got second. It's all about this battle between Anthony Alfredo and Max Kenin for 3rd and 4th, as Van Gisbergen will work his way around 3, around 4, and get the Maconi setup shot 1 to go this time by.
And it seems as though every time, James, that Shane Van Gisbergen works his way through the field, as soon as he grabs P1, he just starts running away, and he doesn't let anybody have a say in any conversation for the front of the pack. What a fantastic night it's been through the field. We're on board with David Schildhaus trying to make a last-ditch effort for P5, but Shane Van Gisbergen already halfway there to the checkered flag and his 4th race win of the Monday Night Racing season.
Van Gisbergen down the back straightaway and unchallenged here, and it will be an impressive mark that Van Gisbergen is about to hit. How about 4 wins in the last 6 races? Right now, the man of the hour is the Kiwi Shane Van Gisbergen out of Australian Supercars is your winner of the Beef Jerky Unlimited 120, as Anthony Alfredo will make it across the line and hang on to 3rd over Max Kenin after all. That may have been one of Alfredo's best drives of the season, all things considered, given what he went through tonight.
Yeah, fantastic effort by Alfredo just to keep it alive. The many incidents he's had to deal with over the course of 120 laps easily gives him the Soldier Award, I guess, if you could give it out for Monday Night Racing here tonight. But what a job by the 97 of Shane Van Gisbergen, just continuing to put checkered flag on checkered flag. And the most colorful card tonight of the race, James, ends up with the win once again.
Impressive work from the 97 machine to get it done for the 4th time this evening, or this season rather. The Aucklander leads the Supercars Championship. He now is in firm control of the regular season as we work towards the playoffs. But Van Gisbergen, your race winner over Anders Krohn. Anthony Alfredo finished in the 3rd spot. 4th went to Max Kenin. David Schildhaus with a nice run back to complete his charge to the top 5. Josh Slate with a solid night was 6th in the evening. Gary Sexton 7th. Steve Affan up there. P8 for him. That might be a season's best for Steve. James Pickford in 9th, and Mike Clay rebounded from the very early incident to finish in the top 10.
EJ Cummings has gone through a lot tonight, but he ends up in 11th. So has Robbie Lyons, who ends up in P12. Justin Malillo early incidents, but he ends up back to 13th at the checkered flag. With Mark Rabillis and TJ Majors capping off your top 15. Brett Baldick behind them in P16. 17th, we go to the 41 of Matt Solnick, who actually had a meeting with Gary Sexton coming off turn 2. That's why he's all the way down in the running order. Ford Martin, our in-race supporter, ends up 18th, Garrett Miller 19th, and the 57 of Seth Egger ends up as the final driver in the top 20 and the final driver on the lead lap tonight, James.
Will Rogers could never recover from the all-cycle pit strategy. He finishes 21st, had a lot more speed, I think, than that. Stephen Ellis was 22nd at the end of the evening. Gabe Wood came home 23rd, and 24th was Brad Perez. Ryan Vargas finishes 25th this evening, 26th to Adam Cabot. Garrett Smithley was 27th, 28th went to Nick Sanchez. Arasha Caruth and Dylan Welch complete the top 30. It was Drew Welker and Ron Capps completing this field for the Beef Jerky Unlimited 120 at Gateway. But we now turn our attention to Victory Lane and bring in just about the fastest person anywhere. And Shane, do we have a golden horseshoe or something? Because you roll right off of all the momentum that you picked up, especially on Sunday at Darwin, and you come in here, you get the victory. What do we need to do in order to get as fast as the 97 machine? Because it seems like right now no one has an answer for your pace.
Yeah, hey guys, another awesome race, but Yeah, I'm normally not very good at two-corner racing, so it was quite a good surprise to be so quick, so stoked.
Did this track change all that much as the sun went down, and did you find your footing, especially once the lights went up? We had a little bit of twilight that we were working with, but I would imagine that extra grip probably helped you a lot, no?
Yeah, I couldn't even do 2 laps in practice without crashing, so it was, I just didn't qualify and went off the back just to try and learn and get better when I was ready, and yeah, I learned a couple of things in the race, and yeah, got a little bit better and better, but yeah, quite fun. There was some good racing there with some guys. Everyone's pretty good racing, so yeah, had a lot of fun.
Have to believe you've got to be excited about next week, because it's about as close to your wheelhouse as this series is going to get. The NASCAR Next Gens at Road America. We know that many of the Next Gen pieces were derived from the car of the future and the Gen 3 setup that supercars are using. So to be in your element next week, I have to believe you've got to be really looking forward to next Monday night.
Yeah, I'm around next week too, so yeah, hopefully I'll make it along. But yeah, I haven't driven that car yet on iRacing, so that'll be a bit of fun. Looking forward to it.
Well, Shane, congratulations on your 4th victory in the last 6 races of Monday Night Racing. Thanks for the time, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday night in Elkhart Lake.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
That's Shane Van Gisbergen, points leader in Supercars, points leader in Monday Night Racing. The man can do just about no wrong right now. But finishing second, another strong run for Anders Krohn in the 47. He is with Kenneth Bueno.
Here with Road to Indy driver Anders Krohn. And Anders, it seemed as though this race from top to bottom was all chaotic, incidents everywhere, lots of drivers struggling with the handling of the race cars. And for you to finish P2 tonight and to survive all the way through, I have to imagine that the objective going into this race was merely to survive.
Yeah, it really was. And, you know, I got dumped at some point, I don't know, about a third of the way into the race, and fell all the way to the back and kind of had to go off strategy. And then I was just praying for yellow, because I was running out of fuel with about 30-40 laps to go. And then luckily, the last yellow that came out helped me out, because I was about to run out of fuel. And then luckily, new tires, fuel, all that stuff, then I was able to hang with them. But man, oh man, no touching that Shane Van Gisbergen, and he was out of control. He was gone.
I mean, you definitely brought speed of your own. I mean, you brought the Lightning McQueen paint scheme here tonight, so surely it must have been pretty fast. But nonetheless, this car, I think, posed a lot of challenges for many in practice, or a lot of drivers just trying to get a grip of what this race car is like at this very track. For you, were there any challenges that this car posed that kind of challenged you a little bit as the night progressed?
Yeah, really just the tire degradation was so aggressive here that you could really go quite aggressive with the car for the first couple of laps, but then after that you had to go straight into conservation mode. And I think Shane definitely had an upper hand in that he would send it quite hard on the opening laps, but then he was so smooth from there on out to save his tires. So I've got some homework to do prior to the next few races coming up. But no, it was good fun for the most part, but there were some seriously aggressive racing out there.
There definitely was, but now I think we get to string things out a little more, because we head to a road course next week, specifically Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, with the NASCAR Next Gen Cup Series cars for 2022. Are there any sort of expectations you carry from transitioning with this high power, kind of low downforce, ungrippy car to a next gen car that's kind of full of it in some sort of ways?
Well, I still haven't purchased the next gen car on iRacing, so I probably need to get after that first, and then get to learn that car over the next week, because I hopefully I can be in contention there as well.
Nonetheless, a fantastic effort for you, Anders. P2 at the end of the night here from Worldwide Technology Raceway. We give you congratulations on your finish here at Gateway, and of course, wishing you the best of luck and hoping to see you at Road America next Monday night.
All right, thanks so much, guys.
Anders Krohn able to bring the Kachow Mobile to P2 at the end of it all, James.
A big time wow moment for the 47. I see what you did there. But Anthony Alfredo, P3 here. And Anthony, I'm particularly intrigued to hear your thoughts on this evening, because I think there are a lot of ways that you can look at the way your night panned out. You had just about everybody run into you, no question about that. So what's more prevalent as you look back on this evening? Is it the frustration in that you might have not gotten the chance to show what you really had? Or is there a lot of pride in being able to battle through that and maintain a podium finish even after everything that happened in this race?
Well, first off, James, I'm glad you noticed. that I did get run into by just about everybody, because it was an exciting night for the people watching my stream. We were beating and banging all over the place. There was twice in the race that I actually I had overshot the corner into 3 and into 1, but I was fortunately around racers who gave me room, and there was actually no contact. But I got doors slammed, run over from behind, and all sorts of crazy stuff. So to finish third is still a great night, as you mentioned. I think I'm more so happy that I got a top 3. Honestly, this hasn't been the year I'd hoped to so far. We've had some excellent runs, and they've been cut short due to some circumstances, or quite honestly, maybe didn't run as well as we had hoped. It's been kind of pressed for time and haven't been able to practice as much as usual, which tonight I got on, and I think I made 5 laps before qualifying. So it definitely panned out better than I expected. I'm glad we were able to take it home top 3. But as you did point out, I think if we didn't have all those accidents and whatnot and just crazy things happen, I think we might have been able to have a shot at it. I know when I think Will and Nick and Brad were the top 3, I was 4th, tailing them, and I didn't know if I'd be able to keep up with them. I got up there and I was just hanging there with them, and they weren't driving away, but I wasn't quite fast enough to pass them. So I knew if I got in front of them, I could hold them off. And then Shane came out of nowhere, and on long runs he was flying, and obviously he got the lead there late. So I wasn't sure if I'd be able to beat him unless we maybe had a caution and I could make another run at it on the short run. But all in all, top 3 is great. It's always good to be in the booth talking with you guys after the race. So just thankful to have a solid run in the SimSeats Ford Mustang. Thanks to JD for whipping this scheme up for me literally 5 minutes before I joined the session. I forgot we were running supers tonight. I thought tonight was the Cup race at Road America, but that's later on. So look forward to the next one already.
Is there a maybe different sense of satisfaction in a run like this where, yes, it might not necessarily be the win that you're looking for every week, but I would almost argue that this may have been one of your most impressive runs in M&R because of everything that happened. So it's not, a win in the traditional sense, but do you take a lot from it given the circumstances?
Absolutely. I would agree with that statement completely, just because of the fact that we started 15th, I believe, and I didn't think it'd be easy to pass here. I mean, it was not easy to pass, but we just stayed out of trouble in the first half of the race, and honestly, I just ran my own race, ran my own pace, tried to take care of my tires, and picked them off one by one. A lot of the guys made mistakes in front of me, would slip off the bottom, and we just kind of take our time with it, and then found ourselves in the top 5, then the top 3, and then all that calamity happened, and it got pretty wild there. So to come back from that, being in the back and damaged, and just recover, be able to get back to the front after all of that, and after starting the rear, come from the back twice, was pretty rewarding. So it definitely gives me some confidence and more motivation going into the next one to get back in the points battle and hopefully snag a win to lock ourselves into the playoffs before they come around.
Now, this car wasn't necessarily one that you had a lot of seat time with beforehand, but next week that's definitely not the case, because you've run the Pro Invitational Series with the next gen car on multiple occasions, and now we're going to go to Road America and run it. And I have to believe that you, much like SVG, you got to be excited about this, because it very, very much has to fall right into your wheelhouse, right into your strengths and your skill set. I have to believe you have to have next week circled, especially now that it's a next gen car.
Yeah, absolutely. I put a lot of time into testing and practicing for the race at the Chicago Street Course for the Pro Invitational Series. So that's the only bit of road course experience I have in the next gen car, but I'm definitely looking forward to that. I think I learned some general basics that I'll be able to apply at Road America, and it'll be good practice for the real thing, because I've never raced there before, and we're going there in the NASCAR Cup Series that same weekend. So I think it's going to be exciting, and hopefully we could have another great run and try to lock ourselves into the playoffs.
Anthony, congratulations on your podium finish this evening. Thanks as always for the time. We'll see you in Wisconsin next Monday night for some road course racing in the next gen machines.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Anthony Alfredo comes home P3, and Kenneth Bueno, I think biggest thing about this, and maybe one of the great unheralded stories of this night in Monday Night Racing, if you step back and remove everything from it and tell me at the beginning of the night that you're going to have a New Zealander, a Norwegian, and I guess pasta counts as something, but that sort of spread of nationalities as your podium in stock cars normally used in short track racing on an oval track, I don't necessarily think I would have wanted to put that bet down immediately, but it also goes to show just how far this league has come, that there's an international flair, and these drivers who don't necessarily have oval experience are coming in and beating a lot of the drivers who do have oval experience at their own game.
It's a game of variance, and that's what we've seen directly out of Shane Van Gisbergen so far this season. We saw the Pro 2 truck win at Watkins Glen. We're like, okay, he's a road racer. We figure that's probably where he's best. But then he goes out and gets dirt wins, and we're like, okay, he seems to be pretty good at each discipline, and then finally now gets a win at the asphalt oval side of things. So to see these drivers, the international level and the skill level we're seeing tonight, just munch in together and start continuously getting better and putting on great shows each and every Monday night, I figure that we're going to see a fantastic run all the way to the very end. And don't forget, James, we're getting very close to the playoffs. So while we have our international focus at hand, the focus has to lay on the drivers right at the bubble wanting to get a championship in Season 3 of Monday Night Racing, especially when we get to Chicagoland and the Xfinity cars in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks until the playoff cutoff, so we'll have an eye on those drivers who are near the bubble. And then next week, we mentioned it before, how there's a lot that comes from supercars and a lot from the car of the future first, and now the Gen 3 cars, the supercars will also be introducing next year as NASCAR introduces their next gen car. But a lot of common parts and pieces, the transmission in particular, it's a sequential transmission on the next gen cars that is ripped directly out of the supercars. And if ever there is a race where you may want to put money on Shane Van Gisbergen having a good run, if there's anything that he should be fast in right out of the box in this season of Monday Night Racing, it will be next week, because we're halfway to running supercars when we got the next gen car out there anyway. So Van Gisbergen figures to be fast next week. That also could shuffle the playoff bubble up a little bit as well, because as he keeps on earning wins, it takes away wins that other drivers could earn to lock themselves into the playoffs. It makes it more of a points battle. So it changes the dynamic a little bit. I don't necessarily know if that's makes it easier or harder for some of these other drivers, because you're still going to have to run consistently well, but it's a different game that you might be playing if Van Gisbergen checks out at the front. How it all pans out next week, though, and whether or not some of these tempers that we saw flared tonight at Worldwide Technology Raceway, whether or not those carry over to Road America, we'll have to wait and see. But these are all questions to be answered next Monday night when we're back on air with Monday Night Racing. A few events to tell you all about, though, before we go, and a few things to keep up with in the world of iRacing over the course of the next week before we get back to M&R Racing. We continue our week with coverage of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. The folks at iRacing HQ, Drew Adamson and company, will set you up from Pocono Raceway. Pre-races tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on iRacing's Twitch channel. Stick around for the main show at 9 on iRacing's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch channels as well. Then it's the beginning of the eNASCAR International iRacing Series on Wednesday night from the virtual Brands Hatch. You'll see drivers from the NASCAR Pinty Series, the NASCAR Mexico Series, and NASCAR Home Tracks going around and making their rounds at Brands Hatch. That broadcast you'll see on the eNASCAR.com live racing portal at eNASCAR.com/live. Coverage will start Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're back on air with Monday Night Racing with the next gen Cup cars at Road America. The next Monday night, June 28th, 8 p.m. Eastern. The Podium 2 Twitch channel, as well as the Podium Facebook and YouTube and Twitter pages. We'll have coverage of that. And then the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series begins round 2 from Knoxville Raceway in Iowa. We start round 2 dirt racing. It's the first year of a completely new setup for the Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series. We're down to the top 70. We'll have 2 splits of coverage, one on the main channel and one on Podium 2. So you'll be able to have both races from Road to Pro up at the same time, wall-to-wall coverage as we find out which drivers make the top 20 and advance to race with the 20 drivers in this season's Coke Series to see which 20 out of that 40 make it into the 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Lots to find out over the course of the next few months with the trucks of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing Series, but we'll bring you that coverage on July 8th. It's time to round out our coverage from the gateway to the west underneath the arch in St. Louis. So big thanks to all the folks at Monday Night Racing, Josh Mendoza, Ford Martin, Paul Sutton, helming everything from the league side, Cisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, John Theodore, our team at Podium Esports, tonight's producer Ryan Bauer, our camera builder Dougie Beard, our pre-race host Taylor Burris, our pit reporter Justin Prince, and my colleague in the booth, Kenneth Bueno. I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you all so much for watching our broadcast of the Beat Jerky Unlimited 120 at iRacing's virtual worldwide technology raceway at Gateway. We'll be back 1 week from tonight in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for the NASCAR Next Gen Cup Cars from Road America.